subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
Synopsis. Come to the world of Hunter x Hunter. Obtain the ability of thinking that is suspected to come from Cthulhu. Crazy Sonata. Those who hear will go mad. Indescribable oil painting. The people who see it, the desire is infinitely enlarged. The Crusoe Tales. Alienation. Dihua. Chapter 1. None. Mad Sonata, an abandoned house. Richard curled up in a closet, trying to keep himself as quiet as possible. A burst of pain made Richard turn pale. Richard lowered his head and looked at the wound. A dagger pierced Richard's stomach. Blood seeped from the edges of the wound. This is really bad luck. Richard came to a world called Hunter x Hunter, the only son of a gang leader. Unexpectedly, the memory of the past life has just been awakened. As a result, he was hunted down. The second leader of the gang rebels. The department that Richard's father was in was completely purged. Now only Richard is left. Sudden, there was a sound of footsteps outside. Richard's expression changed suddenly. Damn, it's all caught up. Can't you let me go? The footsteps are getting closer. There was a look of ferocity on Richard's face. Even if I die, at least I'll have another one. And at this time, Richard suddenly found that the scene in front of him had changed. I came to an ocean. Deep sea. Deep, bottomless. A strange, icy aura surrounded him. Inaudible, vague whispers rang in my ears. Richard saw it. A huge octopus the size of a mountain stands quietly on the bottom of the sea. Eyes closed. The tentacles wiggled unconsciously. Into a deep sleep. There are no creatures around. Even ferocious predators dare not approach. What is this? Richard is a little confused. Richard remembered it well. You're being hunted. Moreover, those who are chasing will be discovered soon. They were all ready to fight to the death. One kill is enough. Kill 2 blood to earn. But suddenly, the giant creature's eyes opened. Involuntarily, Richard looked at each other. A blister appeared in front of the huge creature. After that, it slowly floated towards Richard. Boom! Burst at once. Richard felt something was put into his body. Something not quite the same. What is this? But before Richard could think, a burst of unprecedented pain struck Richard's brain. It hurts. After half an hour, Richard opened his eyes again. Only then did he realize that he had returned to the closet. The deep sea, huge creatures, all disappeared. Richard's eyes flickered. What was that just now? I don't know. But because of what happened just now, I directly awakened none. Aura nodes are open. Then foundation through. Richard thought for a moment. Immediately, a recorder appeared in Richard's hand. This is my nun, Crazy Sonata. This then made Richard think of something in this world, the Dark Sonata. Both are somewhat similar. That Dark Sonata, just hearing a little sound, can make people die and go crazy. Let Melody, a young and beautiful girl, directly become a chunky, bald Mediterranean. In his own Crazy Sonata, the effect is similar. As long as the other party hears the sound, they will be affected by the music and become crazy. My nun and the huge creature in the deep sea have a high probability of being related to the Dark Sonata. Richard's eyes flickered. Outside, the footsteps were getting closer. 2 young men entered the room. Richard, don't hide. We know you're here. Come on. It's pointless to struggle. It will only make you more miserable. I will give you a good time when you read about your previous relationship. Richard recognized the voice. My former friend. But now, this man betrayed Richard, turned to the rebels, killed one of Richard's bodyguards not long ago. Richard's face turned cold, and he put the recorder to his mouth. Start playing. Crazy Sonata. A melodious sound came out slowly from the closet. The 2 young men immediately turned their attention. Richard. The 2 walked toward the closet. A young man stretched out his hand and probed towards the wardrobe. But at this time, sudden, a sharp blade pierced the young man's vest. The young man turned his head suddenly. Why? But what greeted him was not the explanation of another young man, but a crazy face. The eyes are red. The expression is distorted. and the whole face seems to be shaking with excitement. The sharp blade stabbed again. When the people outside heard the movement, they rushed over here. Enter. Just saw the scene of two young people killing each other. What are you doing? However, before they could stop the two youths, the sound of the clarinet entered their ears. Immediately, their expressions began to change. Get twisted, crazy, hysterical. A new cannibalism begins. After a while, the sound outside the closet stopped. Richard walks out. All of them are dead bodies, scattered down. Richard glanced at the recorder in his hand. A thought moves. The clarinet disappeared. Having none and not having none really makes a huge difference. Before, I was chased by them and fled in embarrassment. Now I just play a tune and they die. Chapter 2, Small Clinic. Leorio, a sharp pain came from the wound. Richard sucked in a breath of cold air. The most important thing at the moment is that I need to find a place to treat my injury. Richard walked out, from the alley into the street, then into the alley again. Not long after, a small clinic appeared in Richard's sight. Richard walked in. "Gentlemen," a young man greeted him. "I'm injured, help me clean up." Richard opened the blocked wound. The youth's pupils shrank. "Okay, please come here with me." The youth took Richard to a small room with only one hospital bed. This clinic is very humble. But Richard couldn't care less. "Sir, please lie down." Richard nodded. The young man took out the toolkit, disinfected Richard's wound first, and then slowly cleaned the dead skin, bloodstains, and other contamination on it. Richard glanced. This young man looks like a wild man. But work hard. There was nothing wrong with the whole process. It made Richard feel that he was lucky. Entered a relatively reliable black clinic. After cleaning up, the young man took out the gauze and bandaged Richard's wound. "Sir, the wound is healed." "How much?" 8,000 ringtones. Richard nodded. "This price is not expensive." But Richard suddenly realized the problem. "That means you have no money." When the young man saw Richard like this, he also realized it. The two eyes met. The atmosphere was a little awkward. "I have no money now, but I will pay this bet on you." Richard removed his watch. The young man took it and looked at it. "Is this an imitation?" "The real thing. And even if it's an imitation, it's more than 8,000 rennies." The young man nodded. Richard closed his eyes and rested. "I already know all the 4 basic lines of business." Before this information, it was like it was poured directly into my brain. Tangling, refining, absolutely hair. Richard opened his eyes. Tangling. The aura and nodes opened and life energy wrapped around Richard's body. If I can control my ki and focus on the wound will heal faster. All other than people can do it. It doesn't have to be an enhancer. It's just that the efficiency will be different. This is condensation. It's not difficult, especially for me who have mastered the 4 basic lines of business. It's just to control the accumulation of life energy. Richard looked at his wound. Congeal. Life energy concentrated in Richard's wound. Richard felt it. The healing of the wound is indeed faster. Now the basic none, I have already mastered all. The rest is high-level nin skills. Round, flowing firm, hard. Don't worry about it. Richard thought for a moment. A recorder appeared in Richard's hands. Right now, I'm not sure if I'm a manipulator or a trait. This ability of mine, the Sonata of Madness, can only have that kind of effect if I use this recorder. It can make people who hear the sound go mad, but I can control it. I can choose to drive the other person crazy, or I can choose not to. That way you won't hurt your friends. Richard looked outside. "Doctor, can you give me a glass of water, please?" "It is good." The young man's attitude was much better, and it seemed to be certain that the watch Richard gave him was indeed more than 8,000 ringgits. "Sir, your water." "Wait until the youth leaves." Richard quickly removed a leaf from the green plant on the windowsill. None series of other test methods. Water C. As long as you put your hands on both sides of the water glass and release your key, you can judge my nun's tie based on the situation of the water glass. It is possible to carry out more targeted training. The world, Nen's message, is locked. Some laymen, because of accidental entry, often know little about Nun. For example, those initiators in the Sky Arena, Sedeso and the like, can't even condense this kind of skill. And Huasher Dolong didn't even know his affiliation, so his cultivation went in the wrong direction. Therefore, Hisoka regarded it as a broken fruit and killed him directly. Start. Richard let his breath out. Immediately, when I saw the water glass, the color of the water began to change, but this was just the beginning. The color of the water became similar to the deep sea, and a monster appeared in the water. Weird, spooky, terrifying. A murmured whisper sounded. Richard quickly dismissed. The monster disappeared, and the water became clear again. Richard exhaled heavily. Not any of the explicit representations. Then it's the trait system. For this, Richard has already anticipated. My own nun is closely related to the monster in the deep sea, and that monster cannot be explained by strengthening, releasing, changing. It can only be a trait. Hearing the movement, the young man came in from outside. Sir, what's the matter? Fine. Richard shook his head. Suddenly I noticed that there was a sign on the young man's chest, which was just hung up. Richard didn't care about this brand. It's a name on the sign. Leorio. Chapter 3, The Gangs That Come Again. That's not a youth. It should be a teenager. But it's true. I'm in a hurry. Richard looked away. Is it the time when the plot hasn't started yet? Leorio opened the clinic. There are 2 time points. One is before taking the hunter exam. One is after the Ukexin incident. Obviously, it's the former now. Because of the latter, Leorio has obtained a formal medical license, and there is no need to open a black clinic at all. Sudden, there was a rush of footsteps outside. Richard's expression changed. These guys, are they here again so soon? Really, don't give me a chance to breathe. Leorio heard the sound and was ready to go out. But at this moment, the other party has broken into the door. Right here. Boom. The door of Leorio Clinic was smashed with a kick. What do you want to do? Leorio was furious. A young man looked inside. Richard is here. Leorio, stop someone. Roll. Leorio flew out backwards. Hit the wall. Falling to the ground, unable to get up. Richard looked outside and took out his recorder. After that, play. Crazy Sonata. A melodious sound floated out. Immediately, all the gang members were stunned. The expression is ferocious. The eyes are red. Same as those who chased Richard before. But it's different from last time. Faster this time. Because Richard's control over none is even stronger. The consciousness of these people seems to have been occupied by something. These gang members started attacking people around them unconsciously. There is no concept of companionship. Some even started self-harm, aiming at the wall and hitting his head hard, or take out a sharp blade and cut off his own flesh. Weird and terrifying, Leorio stared at everything in front of him, his eyes widening. After that, he turned back suddenly. Richard stopped, because these gang members are almost dead. As the clarinet stopped, the 2 gang members who were still alive regained consciousness. Richard stepped forward. Take out the sharp knives on them and pierce their chests. After that, Richard looked back at Leorio. What are you still doing? Hurry up and leave. Leorio snapped back to his senses. Richard said as he walked, I can't stay here anymore. These people are coming for me. Even though we didn't know each other before, you treated my injury for me. They'll definitely think you and I are together. Don't try to reason with them, because they are unreasonable. I'm sorry for bothering you. The watch I gave it to you. It is worth 200,000 rennies, and it is regarded as compensation. The 2 walked faster and faster. Those people, what are they? A gang member. Richard paused. I'll give you 2 options now. The first one, not far ahead, is the airship square. You could take the airship and leave the city. I will properly attract their attention. Second, continue to follow me, and I will try my best to keep you safe. Leorio didn't hesitate. I choose the first one. It is good. Richard nodded and said, then let's part here. And many more. What else? Leorio took some medicine out of his arms. It's trauma medicine, as well as anti-inflammatory drugs, to help your wound heal. Thanks. Richard took it and ran in the other direction. Sudden. Stop again. If you want to become stronger, if you want to make money, then go take the hunter exam. Go and take the hunter exam. You'll get what you want. Leorio froze for a moment. What is the hunter exam? But Richard's figure has disappeared. Leorio didn't dare to stay in place and hurriedly left in the direction of the airship square. Bought airship tickets for the latest time. It doesn't matter where you are, just leave the city. It was not until he got on the airship and sat on the airship that Leorio breathed a sigh of relief. Too unlucky. Who the hell is that guy? Leorio lowered his head and looked at the watch in his hand. Fortunately, there is this watch. Hopefully it's really worth 200,000 knives. Leorio couldn't help but recall the scene at that time. The gangsters rushed into their clinic and saw Richard took out a recorder and played it. And after that, the gangsters went crazy. What ability is that? Leorio shook his head vigorously. Don't think about it. It's none of my business. Richard stood on the roof of a building, looking down. Congeal. A third group of people who were chasing him appeared. But this time it's different, because Richard saw that one of them was a nun. Richard sawned in on him. Judging from the appearance, there's a high probability that it is the nun of Transmuter, usually use bullets to attack. In Richard's memory, in this world, there are two representatives of Transmuters. The first is Liza, a member of the Golden Freaks team. The second is Franklin, a member of the Phantom Troop. The future Leorio is also a Transmuter capable. I need to find an environment with a lot of cover. Richard looked at a ruin not far away. Richard was here before, awakened nun. Now back here. Chapter 4 against the nun. Richard's figure is revealed. The gang members spotted Richard's figure and immediately chased after him. The deaths of the two teams made them a lot more cautious. Lord Burroughs, what should we do now? The team came to the entrance of the ruins. Burroughs is the only nun in the squad. Go right in. However, Lord Burroughs, the previous two teams died in Richard's hands. Although we don't know how Richard did it, don't we make some preparations? Burroughs glanced at the man. What are you preparing for? An ordinary person, no matter how powerful. Can I be stronger? Do what you want to do. Unlike the rest of the squad, Burroughs didn't look at Richard differently because of the deaths of both squads, and there was a huge gap between the nun and the non-nun. Burroughs has plenty of confidence in himself. The team goes in, and at this time, suddenly, a clarinet sound came. Why is anyone here playing the recorder? People don't care. But at this time, a young man's state began to change, become crazy, like a mad dog. Oh, an unconscious growl came out of his throat. Kill. Crazy Sonata works. Under the influence of the crazy Sonata, these people all fell into madness. Self-mutilation, killing each other. Everyone, except the nun, entered this state. What is this? Burroughs' pupils shrank, and he realized it immediately. It's a nun. Burroughs hurriedly invoked his own key. Tangling. The uncomfortable feeling was still there, but Burroughs wasn't like those ordinary people. Richard or someone else? It must be someone else. Richard. How could he awaken nun and develop it in such a short time? This ability is really weird. But unfortunately, you met me. I'm the Transmuter's ability. As long as the distance is far enough, your voice will hardly affect me. But my bullets can attack you. Burroughs jumped up and came to the heights. Richard stopped. He raised his head and looked at Burroughs in the heights. For nun, it is not so easy to work, and nun is more resistant. In other words, it's related to the intensity of my thoughts. My mind is equivalent to an A. The other party's mind is equivalent to B. The more A is higher than B, the easier it is for the crazy Sonata to work. On the contrary, if A is not as good as B, then it will be much more difficult for me to influence the other party. Also, it has something to do with distance. Burroughs looked around for a week, frowning. No one else exists. Is it really Richard? How did this kid learn nun in such a short period of time? Burroughs looked at Richard. Raise your fingers and point them in Richard's direction. Read the bomb. A burst of sound rang out. Call out. Richard dodged quickly. Nun's bullets are more powerful than firearms. I actually saw my bullet. Sure enough, it's that kid Richard. Not only have I learned nun, but I have even mastered Ning. Burroughs' expression became solemn. For ordinary people, Burroughs has enough self-confidence. However, as a nun, Burroughs dare not underestimate. Richard took the cover and quickly approached Burroughs. Must be close. My current means are only crazy sonatas. Long distance is the opponent's advantage. Burroughs couldn't see Richard's figure and couldn't help but get nervous. And Burroughs could feel that Richard was trying to get closer to him. A melodious clarinet sounded. Burroughs immediately felt the pain in his body. A strange force seemed to act on him. Read the bomb. Burroughs aimed in the direction where the sound came from, and a bullet hit it. At the same time, Burroughs distanced frantically. It's not the way to go on like this. Burroughs' eyes flickered. Richard had a hard time killing him. But Burroughs' purpose is not to escape from Richard, but to kill Richard. If it goes on like this, it will be difficult for him to kill Richard. So, close combat? An idea popped in Bros' mind. You could try. In close combat, my reciting is not very easy to use, but Richard's recorder is also unable to play, so we're simply fighting ability. I can't possibly lose. Richard has just learned none, and I wasn't in many years ago. Burroughs made a decision. Richard moved closer to Boris. This time, Burroughs didn't pull away. Instead, he took the initiative to greet him. A corner. The two looked at each other. Richard was stunned for a moment and immediately understood the other party's plan. But Richard didn't back down. More than fighting ability, Richard is not afraid. Kill. The two rushed towards each other at the same time. Congeal. Both of them condensed ki on their fists. Boom, collision. A loud voice sounded. The surrounding buildings seemed to be shaking. Chapter 5. The recorder can also be used to knock, beg for votes, ask for flowers. The two of them stepped back a little. This confrontation, no one took advantage, ended in a draw. Burroughs glanced slightly at Richard's footsteps. Whether it will fight or not can be seen from the footsteps. Richard's footsteps were steady. Burroughs' expression became serious. However, for himself, Burroughs still has confidence. Burroughs' confidence comes from two aspects. One is the amount of thought. With the same talent, the longer you practice, the greater the amount of recitation, unless you enter the aging stage. Another is experience. Burroughs has a lot of experience fighting the nun. And Richard, Burroughs reckons it's the first time. For the distribution of ki, it will definitely not be so precise. Therefore, the idea of Burroughs is to consume Richard. It's almost the same when Richard's ki is consumed. It's time for Boris to win. Burroughs charged at Richard again. Boy, let the seniors teach you what a real nun is. You don't have to master nun to be called a true nun. It's about learning to use it. Richard was expressionless and did not answer Burroughs. Of course, Richard knew his own shortcomings. But sometimes, disadvantages can also be advantages. Bang, bang, bang. Collision sounds kept ringing. The surrounding buildings collapsed because of the battle between Richard and Burroughs. Too intense, and these buildings are already in ruins. Time passes little by little. The movements of the two gradually slowed down. Breathing heavily. Boy, are you angry enough? Burroughs narrowed his eyes slightly, and Burroughs saw that the anger in Richard was decreasing. It has become very thin now. Burroughs smiled. None are not angry. They're just ordinary people. How can you resist my attack now? Burroughs raised his fist. Congeal. A burst of heavy pressure emanated from Burroughs' fist. Now, I'm going to smash your head with a punch. Richard showed a panicked expression. The smugness on Burroughs' face was even greater. But at this moment, Richard's hand suddenly filled with air out of thin air. This was hidden by Richard ahead of time. Turn weaknesses into strengths. Then there was a surprise attack on Burroughs. Richard blocked Burroughs' fist. Also, Richard's other hand is out. Violently smashed in Bros' abdomen. Bros condensed most of his ki into his fist, and the ki in his lower abdomen became very thin, as long as Richard's punch hits. Burroughs must be seriously injured. You actually hide your anger? Burroughs' pupil shrank, seeing that Richard's fist was about to hit Bros in the abdomen. Sudden, there was also a mass of air out of thin air in Burroughs' lower abdomen. Humph! Bros snorted coldly and said, I already guessed that you would hide your anger and then hit me by surprise, but I have more anger than you. Not only with anger, but also with experience. You will hide, can't I hide? Richard's fist was also blocked. If this confrontation between the two ends like this, then Richard will still be at the disadvantage. The other hand of Burroughs is gone, reaching out and grabbing Richard's neck. Richard, accept your fate. You are not my opponent. If your life is bad, you must admit it. Go to hell. With your father, stay underground with you. A loser must look like a loser. But at this time, Richard loosened the fist that Burroughs had held before. Suddenly, something appeared in his hand. A clarinet. Richard picked up the recorder and smashed it hard at Bro's neck. Boom! A huge explosion sounded. Bro's neck bones cracked instantly. The blood vessels burst directly. Above, at a speed visible to the naked eye, it bulged. This is Richard's second level of preparation. The recorder is not only for blowing, but also for smashing. Compared with metal weapons, it is only stronger, but not weaker. Richard's hidden key was not only one, but two. This attack, Burroughs did not expect. On hit, the severe pain made Bro's eyes suddenly widen. Richard stepped back quickly. "You, boy!" Burroughs clutched his neck tightly. However, the broken blood vessels are still arteries, and the blood inside is constantly flowing out and cannot be stopped at all. Richard put the recorder to his mouth. "Start playing. Crazy Sonata." This time, Burroughs is not so strong resistance. Seriously injured. Heartbroken, and after the previous battle with Richard, most of his ki was consumed. Where can you stop the influence of the Crazy Sonata? Burroughs' consciousness began to disintegrate and become blurred. His expression turned grim, and his eyes turned red. Next moment, I saw Brothers grabbing his neck fiercely. A wound appeared. The blood accumulated in it and splattered out in an extremely terrifying state. The ground was dyed a rich red. Richard stopped. After confirming that Burroughs was really dead, he turned his head and walked outside. However, at this time, Richard suddenly heard a voice. Richard, gloomy, with endless resentment. Richard looked back and saw Broth's face. Death thought. Chapter 6 Betrayers. They all deserve to die. Seeking evaluation votes. Richard was a little wary. The thought of death is formed by the condensation of powerful resentment and life energy after a person dies, and is often stronger than that of the nun before his death. But the conditions for the production of the thought of death are extremely harsh. It's troublesome. Right now, Richard had just had a fight with Burroughs, almost to the limit. Facing the idea of death stronger than Brothers, it is not an opponent at all. The phantom rushed towards Richard. Sudden, the recorder in Richard's hand moved. A powerful attraction was born from the recorder. The phantom, the thought of death, had been attracted by this attraction before it even touched Richard. Go straight into the clarinet. Richard was born with a sense of enlightenment. This is the ability of the Crazy Sonata. Can absorb the thought of death. The phantom disappeared, Richard thought, and the recorder also disappeared. After that, Richard left the ruined area. Enter the hotel. Richard took a break. Let the waiter bring some food. After eating, I took out the recorder. A group of phantoms floated out from the recorder. It was Burroughs' thought of death. But different from before, this group of thoughts of death has been controlled by the recorder, and the obsession that belongs to Brothers disappears. Richard can control this group of thoughts of death 100%, equivalent to an enhanced version of Brothers Read the Bomb. With Ren's order, the phantom's fingertips condensed a thought bullet. Boom! Directly through the wall. Richard's eyes flickered. In this way, I am equivalent to two none. My ability is the Crazy Sonata. Burroughs' ability is to read bombs. I already have the strength to take revenge. Richard's eyes flickered. Enrose. Enrose was the one who was chasing Richard. The former number 2 in the gang rebelled against Richard's father. Richard's family died at the hands of Enrose. Richard almost died yesterday, too. This revenge must be avenged. An office. A middle-aged man slammed a punch on the table. Trash, it's all trash. A kid can't be killed. What's the use of you? The following people did not dare to make a sound and bowed their heads. After a long time, the middle-aged man calmed down. Is there any news from Burroughs? No, a young man replied. Lord Amlow's, we have tried to contact several times, but there is no reply. I suspect that Brothers and the others may be the same as the previous two teams. What? The middle-aged face sank. You mean, Brothers is not the opponent of that kid? Maybe Richard got help from someone, maybe a former friend of Richard's father. The middle-aged eyes flickered. Let's contact Brothers. In addition, contact a few professional killers, and you can give a higher price appropriately. Yes. And at this time, sudden, a melodious voice sounded slowly. The sound is soft and light. Originally, this kind of sound will bring people a very comfortable feeling. However, Several people are inexplicable and feel a little irritable. Who is it? It's actually playing here. Doesn't he know what this place is? Make him stop. The middle-aged eyes, involuntarily, became a little red. But the following people have red eyes faster than middle-aged people. Boom! A man raised his fist and smashed it hard at the man next to him. The other person slammed his head into the wall. Everyone had a beast-like expression on their faces. The middle-aged pupil shrank and looked at several of his subordinates. Are you sick? This voice seemed to attract the attention of those people, and they all looked at the middle-aged man. Middle-aged for a moment, creepy. The person in front of him seems to be no longer human. Instead, it became some kind of monster. Bang, bang, bang. The middle-aged man did not hesitate and took out his gun. Shot. It wasn't until several people fell down in a pool of blood that the middle-aged man breathed a sigh of relief. What the hell is going on here? The middle-aged opened the door. Just saw on the street below, everyone fell into a frenzy. Like being mad. Like a beast. Cannibalism. Self-harm. Blood flowed. That melodious voice drifted on the street. The middle-aged looked up suddenly. A figure standing on the roof. It's you. The middle-aged pupil shrank. Richard stopped. Enrose, long time no see. Richard, you did this? What did you do? Enrose stared at Richard. I just did what I had to do, Richard said indifferently. Betrayer, all deserve to die. And Luos, isn't it cool when you kill my family and hunt me down? The position of a leader makes you so fascinated. Now, how do you feel? Everyone on this street, except you, is dead. Of course, your family is also included. Little Ryan's brother, little Alice's sister, and Mei Lee's aunt. How do you feel now? Endless's face was gloomy and water was dripping. Richard, you have to die. I must kill you. Kill you. Richard deliberately controlled it so that the crazy Sonata would not affect Enrose too much. Otherwise, the current Enrose would have already died of madness like those people. But in that case, the meaning of revenge would be lost. Richard wanted Enrose to soberly hear the news of the death of his relatives and watch him die with his own eyes. Chapter 7, A Grand Performance. Enrose pressed a button on the phone. Richard saw it, but didn't stop it, because Richard is waiting for their arrival. Enrose is the mastermind. But the betrayers are not only Enrose, but more than the people on this street. Richard wanted to kill them all. Richard, just wait. I will. Richard gave a smile. But before that, Enrose, just watch it carefully. Richard jumped slightly and came to Enrose. Hit the recorder on Enrose's leg. Crack. And Luos's leg bone was instantly interrupted. What? The severe pain made Enrose wailed. Immediately afterwards, Richard removed Enrose's 2 arms. After that, with Luos, he returned to the roof. There'll be a good performance later. Endless, enjoy it quietly. Enrose stared at Richard. The resentment in his eyes almost turned into reality. But more, Enrose didn't understand. Why? Then an ordinary Richard, who hasn't seen him for 2 days, will become so powerful. Break in here single-handedly. All the people in the street were killed by Richard. When Richard shot himself, he didn't even have time to react. But soon, Enrose will understand. The people outside, receiving the message from Endless, are coming here quickly. This is a medium-sized gangster. Take this street as the core. The nearby areas are all under the control of the gang. Under normal circumstances, people are scattered. Richard, you're dead. And at this moment, Richard picked up the recorder in his hand. A melodious voice came out. The anxiety in Endless' heart became stronger and stronger. A figure entered the street. Is a gang member. Is elite. And Luo's trusted subordinate. With a gun, with his spear skills, even if this kid Richard is hiding here, he is still within his aiming range. Just one shot can kill Richard, but boom! Enlos heard the gunshots, but did not see Richard fall. Richard was still playing. It was the man who had just entered the street who fell. It was him who shot himself. Why? Endless's eyes widened sharply. Sudden, Enrose recalled. The same is true for those subordinates in his own office. Suddenly became crazy. Self-mutilation, cannibalism, like a mad beast. More people took to the streets. However, like the man above, after entering the street, their state changed. Become less human. There was a sound of shots being fired. Fist hit him. Broken bones. Blood splashes. Under the moonlight, this street became very strange and strange. Richard stood quietly on the roof, playing the recorder. The clarinet sounded melodious. Countless people walked into the streets one after the other, falling down one by one. A strong, bloody smell hit the nostrils. Like a feast. Richard, like that conductor. And the people below are all accompaniment. Only with their lives. However, it looks very harmonious. You did it. Amlos finally understood. You're not Richard. You are the devil. Amlos is hysterical. Richard glanced at Enluos indifferently, playing and continuing. Finally, all fell. The entire gang was almost completely destroyed. Nearly 90% of the people died in this performance. Without people, gangsters would naturally not exist. I did it, but I'm not the devil. I am Richard. Richard came to Enluos, looked at Enluos, who was emotionally broken down, and shook his head. Enrose, you have disappointed me a little. Now, can't you bear it anymore? That's it. If that's the case, then I'll send you the betrayal now. Go on your way. Richard raised the recorder in his hand and aimed it at Anro's head. Swing down suddenly. Sudden. A mass of unknown objects attacked Richard. Richard had to step back. A figure fell next to Anrose. The man glanced at Richard and then at Anrose. It's not some devil, it's just none. However, it is indeed a rather strange nun. Enluo's eyes suddenly lit up as if he saw some life-saving straw. Corkin, save me. The visitor nodded. As long as you give me Alice, I will save you. I give. Very good. Calkin smiled, glancing back at the street. Richard, right? Killing so many people is enough. This Enrose, I'll protect it. Your nun is really weird and can make people crazy, but I just restrained you. I'm good at close combat, and you don't have time to play the recorder at all. We fight, there's no need. You leave, and I don't think anything happened. Richard glanced at Calkin. If your father killer was in front of you, would you spare his life? Calkin's face turned cold. So, you don't want to give me face anymore? Chapter 8, The Death of Corkin. Why should I give you face? Richard looked at Calkin. As the only two nun in the gang. My father doesn't treat you and brothers badly, right? Why stand on Amlo's side and betray my father? Betray? Corkin shook his head and said, Richard, you are wrong. Bras and I are just hired by your father. It's just an employment relationship. We are not members of a gang. Amlis is willing to offer a higher price. Naturally, I will stand on Amlis's side. Richard, I just want to give you a chance when you and I are both none. You don't think I'm afraid of you, and you say such a thing. I gave you a chance, don't cherish it. I'm counting down to 3, 2, 1. If you don't leave, don't blame me for being rude to you. 3, 2. Suddenly, Calkin moved. Open your mouth. Calkin's tongue popped out. He came to Richard and wanted to wrap Richard around. This is Calkin's nun. Unlimited strengthening of your tongue. Lengthen. Become tough, like some kind of amphibian. It's disgusting. Richard had long expected that he would retreat at the moment of Corkin's attack. This ability reminds Richard of a person. Earthworms in the Een Beast tissue. However, compared to earthworms, this Corkin is more disgusting. Oomph. Good sense. But Richard, you can't be my match. Bras was defeated in your hands because he was restrained by your ability. However, my ability is to restrain you. The amount of ki and experience. I am above you. What are you using to fight me? This death, you brought it on yourself. I gave you a chance. Calkin tried to get closer to Richard again. But at this time, sudden, Calkin sensed danger. He forced his body to move an inch to the side. Boom! A bullet hit Corkin in the shoulder. Richard looked disappointed. It's a pity. The one who used the thought bomb to attack was naturally Burrow's death thought. Stronger than Burrow's bullet. Just now, Richard directed the broth death thought to aim at Kokin's heart. But Kokin dodged the thought projectile at the last minute and only hit the shoulder. Calkin's expression turned serious. Who? Come out faster. Only dare to let the beast appear. Don't you dare to come out. Kokin judged this broth's death thought as a thought beast. However, I don't think it's Richard's mind beast, because Kokin felt that Richard had just awakened none. There's no way it could be that strong. Killing those ordinary people before has consumed a lot of energy in Richard. And now the key of this beast is not even weaker than Richard's. But no one answered Koken, because the person that Kalkin conjectured does not exist at all. In a sense, Broth's thought of death is equivalent to Richard's thought beast. Superior. Richard gave an order. After that, Broth's death thought was to abandon the attack method of the thought bomb, but directly pounced on Korkin. Richard himself, on the other hand, distanced himself. Take out the clarinet. Play. Crazy Sonata. A melodious voice came out. Kalkin felt it. His consciousness seemed to be affected by something. Emotions, less controlled. Damn. Korkin glared at Richard hard. This guy's name must be stopped. It's so weird. However, Broth's thoughts of death haunt Koken, even though Broth's idea of death is weaker than Korkin's in close combat. But there's a benefit to Broth's thoughts of death. That is not afraid of death. Kalkin abruptly was entangled, unable to approach Richard, and with the playing of the crazy sonata, Kalkin's mental state is getting worse and worse. On the verge of collapse, Broth's thoughts of death haunt Koken, giving Richard the opportunity to use none. And Richard's none, which in turn affected Koken's state, in turn helped Boros's thoughts of death. Kalkin, both sides are losing. Kalkin's disadvantage is getting bigger and bigger. This made Korkin even more restless. Mood is more unstable, and the more this is influenced by Richard's mad sonatas. Finally, Kalkin couldn't stand it any longer. Mental breakdown, lack of consciousness. A hand ruthlessly inserted into his mouth, grabbed his almost most important tongue, and pulled it suddenly. Boom! Kalkin's tongue was torn off abruptly. Blood spurted from Kalkin's mouth. Boom! Korkin slammed his head against the floor hard. Once, twice, until the blood is broken. Unluo's expression was extremely frightened. Not 2 words to describe the collapse. Pupils dilated. His face was pale. Forgive me. Richard stopped. Forgive you. When you kill my father, did you ever want to spare my father? When you sent someone to hunt me down, did you ever want to spare me? Richard raised the recorder in his hand. Slammed down suddenly. Boom! Chapter 9, The Invitation of the Monitor Lizard Gang. Anro's head exploded. Bone, blood, brains. Splash. With a slight push from Richard, Anro's body fell. Boom! Smashed to the ground and turned into a puddle of flesh-like existence. Even compared to those who died of Richard's crazy sonata, the situation could be described as tragic. Richard looked again at Kalkin's body. Sudden, a dark shadow emerged from Korkin's body. Richard, I want you to die. This phantom condensed into the appearance of Korkin, another thought of death. Richard's pupils shrank slightly, but not afraid. Next moment, a powerful attraction struck Korkin's thoughts of death. Immediately, Korkin's thought of death was sucked into the recorder, just like Broth's thought of death. Richard looked down at the recorder in his hand. The birth of the idea of death is very difficult. Not all men people die can have the idea of death. But first Burroughs, and now Koken. After these 2 people died, they both had the idea of death. Maybe it has something to do with the crazy sonata? Richard guessed so. Men who are killed by the crazy sonata will have the idea of death, and then be controlled by the recorder? Sudden, Richard felt an air of danger, much richer than Broth and Kalkin brought to Richard. It was like being stared at by some icy, poisonous snake. Richard turned his head and saw a figure walking towards him. Young man with long black hair, face expressionless, eyes blank, wearing a green jacket. The dangerous aura that Richard felt was given by this man. The youth glanced around for a week. After that, his eyes focused on Anne Rose, who fell to the ground. Looking back at Richard, after hesitating for a while, he turned around and left in the direction he came from. Richard's eyes narrowed slightly. This young man reminded Richard of a person. Eldest son of the Zoldyck family. Ilmi Zoldyck, a very powerful killer. There is a high probability that it is Ilmi. It was invited by Anne Rose. The mission was canceled because of Anne Rose's death. Watching Ilmi's back disappear, Richard retracted his gaze. Enter the hotel. Richard closed the door. After that, take out the recorder. 2 phantoms appeared in front of Richard. One, it's Burroughs. One, it was Kalkin. That's the real use of the crazy sonata. Making each other crazy is just one aspect. Creating and capturing the idea of death is another aspect. Richard took a serious look at Brass and Koken. Burroughs, good at long-range bullet attack. Corkin is good at close-quarters combat. When I meet an enemy in the future, I can let Brass and Koken entangle them. And I just play the crazy Sonata by the side. But my own strength also needs to be strengthened. Richard knows his strengths and weaknesses. The advantage is the crazy Sonata. This ability is very special and very strong. The disadvantage is Richard's own fighting ability, physique, and the amount of ki. These basic types of things cannot be achieved overnight, but it requires constant practice to improve. You can't completely rely on the ability of the crazy Sonata. When Richard thought about it, both Burroughs and Corkin disappeared. Richard looked out the window. "Father, your revenge. I have already avenged it for you." The next day, there was a knock on the door. Richard's eyes narrowed slightly. "Who? Is that Mr. Richard? I'm from the Monitor Lizard Gang. It's our leader who asked me to wait for you here. I have something to discuss with you." Montron Gang. Richard knew the gang. Rivals with Richard's father's gang. There have been many fights before, but now things are different. Richard vaguely guessed the other party's purpose. "Open the door." A young man immediately bowed down. "Mr. Richard." Richard nodded. "Lead the way." "Yes." A car was parked under the hotel. Richard got into the car. The scenes on both sides passed quickly, until a manor. The car stopped. "Mr. Richard, please come with me." The young man opened the car door. Richard looked at the manor in front of him. Not too big, but the defense is very tight. As soon as he got out of the car, Richard already felt several glances over him. "Open the door. Follow a stone-paved path all the way in." When approaching the door, a middle-aged man greeted him. "Mr. Richard, good morning. I'm really sorry to invite you here so early. But really, it's too urgent. I have breakfast ready." The middle-aged pointed to the direction of the restaurant. "This way, please." Richard went in the direction the middle-aged pointed. "Sit down." Middle-aged clapped hands. Immediately, several maids appeared with plates. "Breakfast is very rich. If you have something, just say it. It is good." The middle-aged smiled. "In that case, Mr. Richard, I will directly explain my purpose. What happened last night, my people saw it. But rest assured, I have no ill will towards you, Mr. Richard. Instead, I want to invite you, Mr. Richard, to join our Monitor Lizard Gang. Absolutely great pay. Chapter 10 Sky Arena, Tickets and Flowers. I have no interest in joining the gang." Richard refused. For gangsters, Richard has no good opinion. Even if Richard was a gangster before. But Richard was betrayed by his own people. Also, Richard understands a world. Even if it is a world-class gangster, the existence of the 10 old men, if they say death, they will die. I can directly give Mr. Richard the position of your deputy leader. When these words fell, the breathing of the people standing beside them became heavier. This temptation is great. Unfortunately, Richard could not be seduced. What is the position of the deputy leader of a mere Monitor Lizard Gang? Even the gang leader, Richard, didn't see it. Not interested in. That's it. A look of disappointment appeared on the middle-aged face. "That's a pity. But there's no way. If you don't want to, Mr. Richard, it's useless to force. Then let's discuss another matter. Mr. Richard, the business run by your father's gang, we Monitor Lizard Gang, want to take it over. After all, the gang has disappeared now. If we don't take it, someone else will take it. And I can pay you a fee, Mr. Richard." Richard frowned slightly. These businesses, to be honest, Richard is not interested. With the death of Anrose, the gang is completely gone. Richard didn't have the energy to find someone to run the business again. The Monitor Lizard Gang wanted these businesses, and there was no need to give Richard money. But when Richard thought about it, he understood. This Monitor Lizard Gang is afraid of its own strength. The middle-aged clapped his hands. A young man stepped forward and handed over a card. It's an anonymous card with 20 million renuns on it. Richard hesitated and took it. The middle-aged breathed a sigh of relief. "Nothing else, so I'll go first? Goodbye, Mr. Richard." "Goodbye." Watching Richard walk out of the manor, it took a long time before the middle-aged man looked back. Since Richard has accepted this card, then we can let go of those businesses and don't give any other gang a chance. This is our Monitor Lizard Gang. bought with real money. Yes, an undercurrent is surging in this city. However, this has nothing to do with Richard. Richard purchased an airship ticket. It was the city where the Sky Arena was located. As far as Richard knows, several areas are suitable for raising the foundation. One is Meteor Street. Through constant combat, resources are scrambled. But Meteor Street is too chaotic. The second is the Zoldyck family. But Richard has no interest in being someone else's subordinate. Then, only the Sky Arena is left. At this time, a piece of information about Richard reached the world's gangsters. A young man looked at the information in his hand, and his eyes flickered. Use your voice to control others and drive them mad. What a nice nun. The young man looked outside. Bring him back. Let's just say I, one of the 10 old men, the third son of Singed, Cameron, have taken a fancy to his ability and let him be my guard. As long as he does his best, I will give him inexhaustible enjoyment, prosperity, and wealth. A middle-aged man hesitated. Master, what if he doesn't agree? Don't agree? Cameron frowned. I am Cameron, one of the 10 old men, the third son of Singed. Why did he reject me? Master, I just mentioned this possibility. Cameron hesitated. No one can turn me down. If he is really shameless, then kill him. Yes. Richard came to the Sky Arena. A full 251 floors, towering into the clouds. It is the tallest building in the whole city. None of them. I signed up for the competition. This is your number. Please go near the designated arena. After hearing your number, you can board the arena. Richard nodded. The rules of this Sky Arena, Richard knows some. Based on the situation before I awaken none, my strength is probably around 50 layers. But when I awaken none, my physique also improved. Even if you don't use none, you can reach 100 layers. But to go from the 100th floor to the 200th floor, I need to keep practicing, fighting, and improving in this process, and then I could do it, but it won't be very difficult. After all, 6-year-old Killua has already reached this level. Richard looked in the direction of the ring. At this time, in the ring, one is a boxer and the other is a ninja. But both are weak. Richard is not interested. After some battle, the ninja won. Next, number 996 and number 997. Richard glanced at his number. So, got up and walked to the ring. Opposite is a man dressed as a fighter. Middle-aged. Little devil, it's your misfortune to meet me. I'm someone who has climbed the 50th floor. Because I left the Sky Arena for too long, I was disqualified. To start over. However, I'm only stronger than I was before. Little devil, admit defeat and prepare for the next game. Richard frowned and looked at the referee. Referee, can we start? Certainly. The referee nodded. A wave of hands. Start. Richard rushed towards middle age. Chapter 11 promotion to the 100th floor. Richard was looking forward to it. Richard didn't care about winning or losing. Richard just wanted to improve his fighting skills and experience in Sky Arena. The opponents are strong, which is a good thing for Richard. The serious nun route isn't like Richard's. Instead, first polish your physique, develop fighting skills, and experience. After, when the time is right, learn none. This will allow you to maximize your potential. The heart of the Hunter Association and the cultivation of Killua by the Zoldyck family are like this. Richard is the equivalent of a wild road, like those who were initiated in the Sky Arena, but Richard was in a better situation than them. Richard's initiation came from that giant creature in the deep sea, but there is no basis for this to change. So now Richard is looking to make up for it through practice and actual combat, strengthen physique, improve fighting skills and experience. This is the first step. The second step is to take the Hunter exam. Regarding none, Richard only knows the basic 4 lines and condensate. Higher skill, Richard doesn't. Under normal circumstances, after passing the Hunter exam and being recognized by the Hunter Association will send someone to teach it systematically. It was no accident that Gon and Killua met Cloud Valley in the Sky Arena. But the Hunter Association can arrange. In addition to Gon and Killua, Hanzo, Bakur also received professors. The middle-aged raised his fist. Richard twitched subconsciously. Come to the sideways position of middle age. After that, hit the middle-aged temple. Something surprising happened to Richard. This middle-aged man did not hide. Boom! Richard's fist hit directly. With an incredible expression on the middle-aged face, he fell to the ground. Richard, am I too strong? Or is this middle-aged too weak? No, my estimate of myself is objective and true. So this middle-aged man is actually bragging. Richard shook his head. The winner, Richard. The referee raised Richard's right arm. A pass to the 50th floor given to Richard. The second match will begin immediately. Richard's opponent is a young woman. A ninja outfit, but the Sky Arena is actually a bit unfair to ninjas because weapons below 200 cannot be used, and ninjas often rely on ninja tools. Noticing Richard's eyes, the woman was a little unhappy. Because I'm a woman, do you underestimate me? Humph. I'll let you know later what it's like to lose. Richard froze for a moment. I'm sorry, but I really don't mean it. But the woman doesn't believe it. As soon as the referee's voice fell, the woman rushed towards Richard. Compared to the previous middle-aged woman, this woman is much stronger, whether it's reaction, speed, or strength. Just now, the middle-aged man boasted that he has 50 layers of strength, which is simply impossible. This woman is the strength that the 50th floor should have. Richard fought and retreated. The opponent's strength, Richard has already judged. Richard is above the other, even without none. But Richard didn't end the fight right away. Instead, carefully observe the women's fighting patterns. A little bit of analysis, dismantling. Why not attack? The woman became increasingly dissatisfied with Richard. Look down on yourself first. Now, deliberately only defense, not attack. What's the meaning? Play yourself? Under the anger, the woman's attack became more and more fierce. Richard felt a little pressure, but the pressure was short-lived. Richard adapts quickly to the pressure. Be calm again. Tricking me like that, I'll make you regret it. The woman was really angry. Her eyes were bloodshot and red. If it weren't for the arena of the Sky Arena, limited by the rules, the woman really wanted to take out her ninja tools and shoot Richard into a sieve. She had never suffered such grievances since she was a child. Almost. Richard saw that the woman's movements had been deformed, and he knew that he couldn't get more from this woman. A flash. Richard came behind the woman. Hand knife. Boom. The woman's figure fell softly to the ground. The winner, Richard. In one day, Richard was promoted from the first floor to the 100th floor. After 4 battles. Except the opponent in the first game is a parallel importer, the remaining 3 opponents are not bad. Somehow, Richard got some gains. Richard stayed at the Sky Arena. The rules here are, as long as the floor reaches 100 or more, you'll have a private room, 1 room, and 1 living room. There's also a public training room available. However, once it falls below 100, the room will be retracted. Richard took the key card and found his room. Just drop something. A doorbell rang. Oh, Richard opened the door. A young man stood at the door with a smile. You are? Richard frowned. The other party's expression made Richard inexplicably unhappy. Is it convenient for me to go in and talk? Richard hesitated for a moment and moved out of position. Come in. Chapter 12 Dihua Association for Flowers for Tickets. Let me introduce myself first. I'm Ren. The current floor level is 100. I came to invite you to join us. We see potential in you, so we want you to be one of us. You? Yes, we the Dihua Association. You can think of it as a gang. Not interested in. Ren's expression stiffened. Don't refuse so quickly. Let me tell you the advantages and disadvantages of joining our Dihua Association. There are many people in our Dihua Association, so we can arrange some games. You won't win. We'll let you win. Correspondingly, if you don't join our association, then we can make you never win. Richard frowned. Are you playing fake games? Do not. Rin shook his head. It would be too much to say fake matches. The fundamental purpose of our association is to improve the strength of the association. We will absorb potential newcomers. We aim to improve the strength of everyone in the association. It's just that running an association will inevitably require a lot of expenses. Make a bet and make a little money. Richard glanced at Ren. Having said so much is not a fake game. The arena official. Won't you have any comments? Ren showed a smile. The government naturally has our people. Also, The president of our association has a special status. He is a member of the 200th floor. You are new here, and you may not know much about it. Sky Arena, above the 200th floor and below 200, are two completely different worlds. More than 200 floors, that is simply a godlike existence. As Ren said, there was a touch of yearning and awe in his eyes. Richard suddenly remembered a name. Sadeso, one of the players on the 200th floor, a person who has gone through the new person initiation and got none. In terms of strength, it is almost the bottom layer of the none. Richard looked a little weird. The president of your Dihua association, is his name Sadeso? Rin was stunned for a moment. You know our president? I don't know, I just heard about it. Richard shook his head. Rin looked at Richard and said, since you have heard the name of the president, then you should understand the strength of the president. Joining our association will benefit you and not harm you. If you don't join, our Dihua association will not necessarily target you. However, in the Sky Arena, we are not the only association. Other associations are not so easy to talk about. Richard still refused. Sorry, I'm not interested in this. Rin's face sank. I hope you won't regret it. I'll give you another chance. Tonight, before 12 o'clock, you come to me, and I will still let you join the association. But after 12 o'clock, then, you don't have this chance. Rin walked out of Richard's room. Richard shook his head. The threat of a big cable association, Richard didn't see it at all. When using none, even the president of the Dihua Association, Sadeso, would not be Richard's opponent, let alone the people below. As for targeting, target, Richard is not afraid at all. Richard came here to find an opponent. It was a good thing for Richard that the Dihua Association took the initiative to send those strong people up. Richard glanced out the window. There's still a lot of time today, so don't waste it. Let's do physical training. Richard developed a complete training plan for himself. Physical fitness, actual combat. These two aspects, for none, are fundamental. As the saying goes, the foundation determines the upper layer. A person with a good foundation may not necessarily be good at the top. However, for those with a poor foundation, it is difficult for the upper management to do well. Sit-ups, squat, push-ups, plank support, sweat rained down. Wet the floor. Richard didn't stop, but kept pushing his limits, little by little, until I really can't stand it. Richard called and ordered himself a nutritious meal. After that, go to the bathroom. Turn on the tap. Warm water sprayed down. Between the 100th and 200th floors, the allocated rooms have only showers. On the 200th floor, there will be bathtubs. After a while, the doorbell rang. Richard came out of the bathroom. Mr. Richard, the nutritious meal you ordered has arrived. Thanks. Richard came to the table. Sit down. Unpack. Pick up a piece. Entrance. Frown. It's unpalatable. However, it's really good for supplementing physical fitness. It's a lot better than food that tastes better, but is unhealthy. Richard's temporary choice blocked his sense of taste. That night, Richard slept soundly. But some people don't sleep so well. The next day, Richard came out of the room. A figure appeared in Richard's sight. It was Ryan, two very thick dark circles. I waited for you for so long yesterday, but I didn't expect you to come. Very good. Dare to reject our Dihua Association. You have to be prepared. Today your opponent is me. Humph. I'll let you know the fate of offending our big cable association. Richard shrugged. Random. Chapter 13, Richard versus Ryan. This Ren's momentum looks pretty good, and Richard doesn't mind Ren being his opponent. Richard had breakfast, submitted the application at the front desk, and then went back to his room. While waiting until the start of the game, while doing basic training, but it's more of a skill than a physical type. Soon, on the TV on the wall, a notification appeared. The above is Richard's battle information for today. Richard versus Ren. The time is 10 o'clock in the morning. 10 minutes left. Richard walked out of the room and walked towards the location of the ring. The game has not yet started, and the audience is already full. Compared to below, the audience here is much larger, even if the ticket price is more expensive. But people just have a kind of thought that respects the strong in it. Tickets above 200 floors will be more expensive, but there are more people rushing to it. Richard couldn't help thinking of the future battle between Hisoka and Crawlo. Those spectators are really unlucky. After spending money, I originally wanted to watch a wonderful game, but I didn't expect that even my life would be explained here. There are not a few viewers who died in the hands of Crusoe. In fact, for ordinary people, there is no need to watch games with more than 200 floors. It was a battle between the none. When it comes to reading, ordinary people simply cannot understand it because they don't freeze. From a viewing point of view, it is not as good as the game below 200 floors. Please come to the ring. Richard walked along the passage to the ring. Ren walked out from the other side. Richard, you will regret it. Ren's expression was fierce. It's just that with two dark circles under his eyes, he looks very happy. Some viewers even laughed wildly. It made Ren's face even gloomier. The referee glanced at both of them. Start. Next moment. Ren immediately charged towards Richard. A sharp breath emanated from Ren's body. Richard frowned slightly. This Ren is stronger than any opponent Richard has encountered before. Good. I just need an opponent like that. The two fists collided. Richard is still primarily defensive. Seriously observe Ren's attack pattern and memorize it. After that, copy again. This is Richard's strategy. Imitation learning. This is the fastest improvement strategy. After all, it's easier to imitate something than to reinvent it. Ren's attack speed became faster and faster. Ren knew about Richard's fighting style before. At first defense, then violently counterattack. Ren was interested in Richard after knowing Richard and wanted to draw Richard into the Big Rope Association. So Ryan knew, if you want to fight Richard, you must go all out and knock Richard down directly. I don't believe it. You won't show your flaws. Currently, all of Ren's attacks have been brought down by Richard. This annoyed Ren. If there's no chance, then I will create a chance. Ren gritted his teeth. Snakebite fist. Chance. A gap was seen by Ren. Ren didn't hesitate and slammed into the gap with a punch. Boom. Richard flew out backwards. Ren showed a smug look. How about it? However, before Ren could catch up, he launched his second attack. Richard had already stood up from the ground. Good. Richard's eyes lit up. Ren's attack just now made Richard see something different. That thing is called routine. What is a move? Tricks are routines. It's the same as playing chess, using a certain routine to expose the opponent's flaws. Continue. Richard was looking forward to this fight. Ren was stunned. Why do you have nothing at all? Ren stared at Richard's lower abdomen. Just now, this was where Ren hit. But there is no visible injury. Not even the clothes were damaged. This caused Ren to doubt himself. Could it be that my fist is so weak? Impossible. Ren clenched his teeth sharply and charged up again. Boom! Countless collisions sounded. Gradually, Richard changed from a state of only defending, not defending, to occasionally attacking. Richard is learning and experimenting. Little by little, I absorbed Ren's fighting skills and experience. Finally, Richard stopped. It's time to end. Richard used the same move as Ren. Snakebite fist. But this time, it was Richard who had the upper hand. Boom! Ryan fell. The referee took a look and announced, the winner, Richard. Richard walked off the ring. He reached out and rubbed his belly. There was a little pain just now, but it's gone now. When Ryan's fist was about to hit Richard, Richard used ki and made a certain defense. Today, the harvest is great. With the defeat of Ren, the Big Soul Association seems to be eyeing Richard. For a whole month, Richard's opponents were members of the Dihua Association. Richard never lost, though. Defense first, then counterattack. The stronger the opponent, the stronger Richard will become. Physical training and actual combat are carried out at the same time. Richard's strength has improved rapidly. Dihua Association, cowardly. But I don't know if it's really cowardly or if I'm planning to make a big move. Chapter 14, the stalker behind Richard stepped into the elevator. In addition to the waitress, there is also a figure. Long purple hair. Not very tall. There was an air of unapproachable air from his body. Richard frowned slightly. From his person, Richard felt a dangerous aura. A name entered Richard's mind. Maggie, from Meteor Street, one of the members of Phantom Troop. Conjurer's ability. Good at using mind lines. It turns ki into lines of different properties. A half healer. The wound will be sutured. However, the combat strength is not weak, and the brigade can be ranked in the upper middle. Especially good at sixth sense. And just when Richard entered, Maggie also looked at Richard. A look of vigilance appeared in his eyes. Intuition tells Maggie that Richard is dangerous. Very dangerous. Don't get close. It was a feeling that Maggie had never experienced before. Not even on Crusoe, the elder, Hisoka. Which floor do you want to go to? The waitress asked. First floor, thank you. The elevator became quiet, even a little dignified. The waitress was a little afraid to breathe. Ding! Finally, the elevator arrived. The first floor is here. Richard stepped out of the elevator first, followed by Maggie. The waitress looked at the disappearing backs of the two and breathed a sigh of relief. Very scary. Richard glanced back at Maggie and walked towards the commercial street ahead. This is the first time Richard has come downstairs since he came to the Sky Arena. For a whole month, Richard worked hard. Apart from training and actual combat, there is nothing else. Richard wanted to take a break today. At the same time, replenish your daily necessities. Richard looked at the restaurant not far ahead. After eating nutritious meals for a whole month, tonight, let's be a little bit arrogant. Richard wandered the streets. And at this time, a figure came out of the dark. A look of anger in his eyes. It's finally out. Makes me wait a whole month. Boy, even if Master Cameron appreciates you again, it's at least a lesson from me. Otherwise, I have nowhere to go. Richard was hanging out in the street. Thinking back to when Gon and Killua went to Ukexen, I couldn't help but think. Congeal! But soon, Richard was disappointed. In these stalls and shops, there's almost no existence with thoughts. But it's normal. After all, this is not a place to pick up leaks. Richard changed some clothes. The 20 million ringworms given by the monitor lizards are quite useful. With my current strength, it's not difficult to earn 20 million Juani, but at least it will take some time. The sky gradually dimmed. Richard walked into a restaurant. A restaurant with a lot of families. When you come to an unfamiliar place and choose a restaurant, the first choice is the restaurant with many people. Not to mention how good it could taste. At least he fits most people's tastes. In those small shops with few people, the possibility of meeting their own tastes is too low. Hello, sir. This is the menu. A girl came over. Thanks. Richard glanced. Can you recommend your signature dish? In terms of weight, give me a portion for 3 people. The girl froze for a moment. Sir, is there anyone else? No, I have a bigger appetite. Richard smiled. Whether it is physical training or actual combat, the consumption of physical strength is huge. The more you eat, the stronger you become. This rule is not just talk. Soon the dishes came. Tasty. Richard is quite satisfied. It's not as good as what I ate when I was in the gang. But compared to the nutritious meal in the Sky Arena, the taste is countless times stronger. Richard looked out the window. It's actually pretty good to live here as an arena player. For me, though, it can only be a process. Richard got his revenge by killing Anrose and destroying the betrayed gang. However, just as old problems have been solved, new problems have emerged. Richard is very concerned about his nun. Richard wanted to find out where his nun came from. What is that huge creature in the deep sea? What do you need to pay for your ability? At present, the only thing Richard can think of that might be related to his nun is the Dark Sonata. In order to obtain the Dark Sonata, you must have enough strength. Bill, please. Richard walked out of the restaurant. After glancing back, I walked to the street and started a new round of shopping. Inadvertently, he walked into an alley next to him. A figure appeared at the entrance of the alley. Richard turned back. What's up? Richard glanced at each other. I'm pretty sure that I don't know each other. But the other party followed him all the way. Moreover, the body has the breath of mind. Is a nun. I'm the world gangster, one of the 10 old men, the third son of Singed, and the chief guard of Cameron. Johnson, Master Cameron took a fancy to you and asked me to take you back and become one of the guards of Master Cameron. Richard. What the heck? Where does self-confidence come from? As soon as you open your mouth, you will let yourself be the next person? Chapter 15 Cameron Solicitation. Votes. Don't go. Johnson was taken aback. Don't go? Did you miss it? Or did I miss it? This is the world's gangster, one of the 10 old men, the third son of Singed, and the solicitation of Master Cameron. You refuse. Richard looked at Johnson and said lightly, I'm sorry. I don't have a hobby for people to be servants. No matter who this person is, if there is nothing else, then I'll go first. World gangster? 10 old men? Richard didn't like it at all. The name is loud, saying something about the gangster that controls the whole world. However, Richard knew that in the future in the Ukexan incident, the 10 old men died in the hands of Ilmi. There was a picture of Maha in the middle. Richard was not sure whether Maha had taken action in this matter. But that's enough to say. 10 old men, nothing great. Richard wasn't even interested in being the bodyguard of 10 old men. What's more, he is only the third son of one of the 10 old men. Johnson's eyes narrowed slightly. Are you really not going? I'm very sure. Well, Johnson suddenly smiled and said, I don't know why you didn't go, because as long as you are a normal person, you can't refuse this opportunity. It's a chance to get into this world, the top. But it's a good thing for me that you refused. Richard frowned. Do you know, I came here a month ago, but you have been staying in the Sky Arena, so I can only wait outside, waiting for a whole month. Richard interrupts Johnson. Aren't you going to go up? Because of some kind of relationship, I can't enter the scope of the Sky Arena. Johnson's eyes flickered. This month has been a torment for me, but now great. You rejected Master Cameron's solicitation. Then I can do it to you without hesitation. Bear my anger. Richard stared at Johnson, frowning, thinking that this man was really sick. Did you ask him to come? A month? Even if it is 10 months, 100 months, what does it have to do with yourself? You want to kill me? That's right. Johnson's expression turned grim. I just want to kill you, how about that? Do you regret now? But unfortunately, there is no chance. I have recorded your rejection just now. Master Cameron, there is no reason to punish me. Richard shook his head. So, in your eyes, a life is such a cheap thing? But are you sure you can kill me? Certainly, Johnson said disdainfully. You are just a newcomer who has just awakened none, and I'm a veteran who has been on the road of none for many years. Also, I also know your information. You don't know my abilities. Therefore, you can't be my opponent. Go to hell. The next moment, Johnson rushed towards Richard. At the same time, a whip appeared in Johnson's hand. Richard's eyes flickered. A manipulator capable. The whip came out of nowhere and couldn't be an emitter. Many times, manipulators' abilities will disguise as emitters' abilities, making the other party make wrong judgments and then use this to win. Karapika does just that. Your nun is to use music to control the other party, make the other party's mental breakdown and go mad. But you'll need that recorder. I can spare you the time to use the recorder. Johnson twitched his whip suddenly. Snap! The whip swept toward Richard. But at this moment, a figure stood in front of Richard. It's Corkin's idea of death. A long tongue stuck out, entwined with the whip in Johnson's hand. Johnson's pupil shrank. What is this? Richard raised the recorder in his hand. Unfortunately, the information you investigated is not comprehensive enough. After that, Richard put the recorder to his mouth. Crazy Sonata, play start. Johnson gritted his teeth. It's just a beast. What is it? Johnson judged Corgin to be a beast. Immediately, Johnson gave up the whip in his hand. An axe appeared in Johnson's hand. The weapon I can materialize is not just one. But just as Johnson was about to charge Richard, boom! A thought bullet hit Johnson with precision. Johnson's face changed. There's even a beast. Burroughs fired consecutive bullets. And Koken also put down Johnson's whip and charged at Johnson. The two phantoms restrained Johnson in their own way. This is currently the most suitable tactic for Richard. Use the death thought puppet to entangle the enemy. And he's playing the crazy Sonata. Johnson's mood was affected. A burst of blood appeared in Johnson's eyeballs. The sound of Richard's recorder gave Johnson a splitting headache. Damn. Johnson is in a hurry. Because Johnson is very clear that his emotions have begun to collapse. And it is very likely that in the next moment, he will be completely mad, lose consciousness, and become a lunatic existence. The only way to stop is to ask Richard to stop. However, Burroughs and Koken entangled Johnson. Johnson just couldn't get away. A touch of remorse appeared in Johnson's heart. Why should I do such a superfluous thing? Chapter 16, the third puppet. Johnson really regrets it. In the current situation, Johnson can be sure that he has no way to turn around. Johnson didn't expect that Ren would be so strong. The information I got was not accurate at all. In addition to the weird music, Richard actually has two such strong beasts. Why do such unnecessary things because of resentment? Johnson struggled to clear his consciousness. I was wrong, forgive me. Richard glanced at Johnson, ignored it, and continued to play. Now, beg for mercy? What did you do before, don't you know? For those who want to kill himself, Richard can't let go. Sudden. It's like reaching a certain tipping point. Johnson's eyeballs turned completely blood red. The whole person's consciousness collapsed. Richard stopped. See you in the next moment. Johnson embodied a one-handed axe, showing a frenzied expression, and slashed to his forehead fiercely. Crack! In an instant, the skull shattered. Boom! Johnson's body fell to the ground. Soon, a shadow appeared. It's Johnson's idea of death. This time, Richard could be sure that the idea of death is indeed due to his own crazy sonatas, and those who die because of the crazy sonatas will have the idea of death 100%. Richard, Johnson's death thought roared. Pounce on Richard. But before that, the recorder in Richard's hand had already burst out with a powerful attraction, sucking Johnson's death thought into the recorder and becoming a puppet. This Johnson is better than Calkin and Burroughs. According to his own impression, Richard divided the none in this world into several levels. May not necessarily be accurate. After all, Richard had never really fought them. First up is the E-class. The main representatives are Sedeso, Jido, Realvelt. The second is Class D. The main representative is the Een Beast. The third is the C-grade. The main representative, Phantom Troop Ordinary Members, Nobunaga, Finks. The fourth is the B-class. The main representatives, Hisoka, Krallo, Liza, Silva, Kate. After that, it is A level. The main representatives are Netero President, Kim Freaks. The Ant King, Richard judged it to be S rank, although the Ant King died in the hands of President Netero. However, it's more because of Rose, not Netero's thousand-handed Avalokitesvara. The amount of reading, Ant King is much stronger than Netero. Moreover, it only took half a year for the Ant King from birth to death. None, by itself, has not been developed enough. Of course, this is only Richard's rough judgment, and the real situation will definitely be different. And within the same level, there may also be a large difference in strength. In addition, because the environment is different, the ability to restrain. It is not impossible for the subordinates to defeat the superiors. My current strength is probably D level. When my training in the Sky Arena is over, my fighting skills and experience will be improved. Coupled with the particularity of my crazy Sonata, I can be upgraded to C rank. But C level, it's nothing. Richard is very clear. The danger in this world is high. In particular, I'm going to investigate the Dark Sonata by myself. Then your own strength must be strong enough. Sudden, Richard felt a gaze, looking behind him. Ooh! Richard turned back quickly. I heard rapid footsteps. Richard's pupils shrank. Ren, the owner of the site, is none other than Ren. Moreover, Richard judged from the situation of Ren running away. Ren saw all the situation just now. I can't let Ren run away. Richard immediately chased after him. Ren looked terrified. The reason why he followed Richard was to teach Richard a lesson. Richard caused them a lot of losses to the Big Cable Association. But now, Ren realized that he had never seen Richard clearly. Richard's strength is far beyond Ren's imagination. The same weird method as President Dasa. This Richard will have the same ability. With his strength, he could have climbed to the 200th floor long ago. Why do you pretend that you don't and hide your strength? Is it bad fun? Ren felt a little bitter when Richard was catching up. There was some resentment in my heart. Why? Why is there such a bad taste? Isn't it good to be your strong man? It's so fun to tease others like this. Richard took the recorder in his hand. Boom! Burroughs' figure appeared. Read the bomb. Next moment. The bullet directly penetrated the back of Ren's head. Boom! Ren widened and opened his mouth, but he couldn't make any sound. The whole body, involuntarily, fell forward. Hit the wall. Richard stepped forward. After confirming that Ron was dead, Richard asked Brass to carry Ren's body to the shadow. After, step out of the alley and pretend nothing happened. Back to Sky Arena. Richard stepped into the elevator. I saw the girl with purple hair again. The two eyes met. Move away a moment later. Go to the 166th floor. Okay, sir. Chapter 17, I can't stand this grievance, go back to the room. Richard thought for a moment. Immediately, three phantoms appeared in front of Richard. Burroughs, Calkin, Johnson. One transmuter, one enhancer, one manipulator. Richard glanced at the three phantoms. The quality is a little off. These three people are not considered strong among the none. But it's better than the number, and not afraid of death. They don't need to beat the opponent, as long as they can entangle the opponent, and when I play the crazy Sonata, then I can win the battle. Johnson's body was found. People from the Dihua Association immediately conducted an investigation. But nothing gained. Richard has cleaned up all traces. Sadaiso stared at Johnson's body, frowning. It's a bullet. It was the nun who killed Johnson. However, neither Johnson nor our big cable association have offended none. It's very likely that it was an accident. No one thought of Richard's side, because no one knew that Richard would none. By the way, President, we have someone here who would like to ask you. What? It's a newcomer. The person said, we saw his talent and invited him, but he refused us. And it kept interfering with our plans, which cost us a lot of money. Sadaiso frowned. Have you lost money? Yes. Give me his information. Yes, President. Not long after, Richard's information was sent to Sadaiso. In one day, I was directly promoted to the 100th floor. After that, consecutive victories. No abnormal failures. The mode of battle is similar. Defend first, then counterattack. This guy, Sadaiso's eyes narrowed slightly. This guy is learning. He treats his opponent as a sparring partner. Defend first, not because he doesn't know how to attack, but because he wants to observe the opponent's ability, skills, experience, and means, and slowly absorb the opponent's advantages. Wait until you master it. Then you will shoot and defeat your opponent. What a terrible young man. Mind, talent, it's all scary. But Sadaiso looked at a number next to him. The above is the amount of money lost because of Richard. A full 60 million ringgit. It cost me so much money. Absolutely unforgivable. Now you're 166 floors up. You will definitely come to the 200th floor. At that time, I'll deal with you. Sadaiso waited and made the best choice. Don't kill Richard yet. Wait until Richard reaches the 200th floor, and then play against Richard. Beat Richard to win. Wait until Richard is useless, then kill Richard. That's Sadaiso's plan. Sadaiso, Jaido, revealed the purpose of these people in the Sky Arena is to get 10 victories, and then challenge the floor master to become the new floor master. And the Lord will gain a lot of wealth. Sky Arena, below the 200th floor, most of the income is attributed to the official. There are about 10 floors divided into one level. The floor where Richard is located is the 166th floor, and in terms of the strength level of the Sky Arena, it is the 160th floor. According to the calculation method of the Sky Arena, floors 160 to 169 are considered the same level, and above 200 floors, the situation is somewhat different. There will be a concept of layer master here. The so-called layer master refers to the strongest person and manager of this layer. Will get most of the benefits of this tier. It is almost an inexhaustible wealth. When it reaches the 251st floor, it will change its name again. Among the many floor masters, a fighting conference will be held every 2 years. The winner will get the challenge qualification of the landlord, challenge the landlord, and if he wins, he will become the new landlord. The owner's wealth comes from the division of the entire Sky Arena. Compared with the layer master, it is countless times higher. Keep challenging. Richard continued to practice. On the one hand, physical training, on the other hand, combat. Richard could feel the speed of his own ascension. Soon, it may be that Richard has already stood on a higher level. So for the foundation, you will have your own understanding. Can be understood faster. Sadaiso waited patiently. According to this speed, within half a month, Richard will be raised to 200 floors. I want not only victory and points, but also your life. And at this time, the news of Johnson's death was sent back to the world's gangsters. Richard disposes of the body. However, people are always there, and if they can't get in touch, there's only one possibility. Died. Cameron's eyes flickered. Johnson is dead. Richard did it. Impossible. Cameron denied it. Johnson is my chief guard, and Richard is just a rookie with some special abilities. If I wasn't interested in his nun, I wouldn't look down on him at all. He couldn't have killed Johnson. Cameron hesitated. I don't know who did it, but this matter can't be left alone. Johnson is me, Cameron's chief guard, and I am the world gangster, one of the 10 old men, and the third son of Singed. I can't stand this grievance. Chapter 18 Sidaso's disciple Richard's floor has been raised to the 190th floor, which is only a little distance away from the 200th floor. At this point, Richard stopped, because Richard's purpose is not to climb to a higher level, but to conduct basic training here. Entering the 200th floor, that is the Battle of the Nun. The help to Richard is not that great. Richard voluntarily conceded defeat and kept his floor at the 190th floor. This upset Sidaso. This guy, did he realize that I would be bad for him? Deliberately not going to the 200th floor? Definitely so. Otherwise, there is no way to explain. Sly boy. Sidaso snorted coldly. However, do you think that I can't deal with you? Sidaso took out his phone and dialed a number. Master. Chris, I need to do something for me. Come to the Sky Arena. Yes, Master. A figure appeared in front of Cameron. Cameron's expression became respectful, because the people in front of you are very different. The World Gang employs some people who are very good at none. Assassination, or the protection of employers and other tasks. Killing and protecting, they are good at. Called Beast. Senior Lizard. Lizard is the code name for this nun. Because of the similarity of nun among the beasts, many people are named after this. Earthworms, sick dogs, porcupines, leeches, etc. The lizard nodded. Tell me, what do you need me to do for you after spending so much money to invite me here? Cameron said, my captain of the guard died in the Sky Arena, so I hope you can help me to investigate and take revenge, Senior Lizard. I can't swallow this breath. The lizard frowned. Sky Arena? You know that place is different from other places. Yes, Cameron knew, but I can be sure that Johnson did not enter the Sky Arena, nor did he die in the ring. The task I gave him was to help me bring back someone. This person is challenging floors in the Sky Arena. But Johnson didn't enter the Sky Arena. He just waited outside. The lizard nodded. This means that we did not break the agreement between Sky Arena and us. You suspect that the people from Sky Arena took the initiative to break the agreement and killed Johnson. Yes. Cameron nodded. I see. I can help with this, but I will investigate first. If Johnson breaks the agreement first, then I will not take action, but I will not refund your money. It's natural. If that's the case, then let's go now. An airship. In addition to Cameron and Lizard, there are 2 guards. Cameron's guard. All are none, but far less than a lizard. After all, they can't even match Johnson. Richard came to the ring again. Start. Richard looked across. This opponent gave Richard a very different feeling. At first, this guy seemed to be coming for him. The hostility was undisguised. Congeal. Richard used condensation. Sure enough, on the other side, Richard saw the existence of Nien. This is a nun. Chris. The nun who came for me. Richard thought back. People who are in conflict with themselves may come from 2 aspects. One is the Dihua Association. However, the Dihua Association has been out of action for a long time. Rin's death. No one will doubt himself. The other one is Run, who appeared last time. The world gangster, one of the 10 old men, the third son of Singed, the guard leader of Cameron. There were too many people around that day, and there were many people who saw my abilities. Maybe it was one of them who uploaded my information to the world's gangsters, and then aroused the interest of Cameron, who has too many name prefixes. This Chris may be someone from Cameron. Ren had a mental plan for his ability to be known to others. After all, this thing can't be hidden forever. Unless you don't fight. Hisoka's ability, Krallo's ability, Gon's ability, Killua's ability. As long as there is a battle, sooner or later it will be known. Unavoidable. It is unrealistic to expect all battles to be based on differences in intelligence. Your own strength is the most important. Chris rushed towards Richard. Richard could clearly see that there was a lot of anger on Chris's fist. This guy is an enhancer. The whole body is tempered very solid. But Richard is not weak. Even a trait type, none has the worst talent in enhancer. But the ability of the trait system is very special in itself. Also, different people have different foundations. 20% of one person may be stronger than 100% of another person. Just like the Catwoman among the chimeric ants, Neferpitou is a trait, but how many enhancer people can beat Neferpitou? Very few. Richard is already judged. The rank of this Chris is only E. And among E, they're all relatively poor ones. It's E-. Chapter 19, Then I'll Play With You Richard is D. Show weakness first and obtain information. Richard kept dodging. What kind of grudge do you have with me? 8. Chris snorted coldly and said, You upset my master. Your master? Don't say you don't know. Do you still want to admit that you have done such a thing to our Dihua Association? The Dihua Association? Sedeso asked you to deal with me. Master asked me to teach you a hard lesson. Richard heard the word lessons and confirmed that the other party didn't know that Johnson died in his own hands. But because of the contradictions accumulated before, I want to teach Richard a lesson. But even if it was a lesson, Richard couldn't accept it. Richard never took the initiative to provoke the Big Cable Association. It was Richard who was provoked by the people of the Dihua Association. Those who were defeated by Richard were simply inferior to others. And as for how much money these people lost, Richard doesn't feel connected to himself. I didn't do anything to your Dihua Association. You said no. You deliberately humiliated the members of our Dihua Association. Chris stared at Richard fiercely. If you are strong, you can beat them. It doesn't matter, but why are you deliberately teasing them? Now I want to let you taste it. Richard frowned. This Chris is not what Richard expected. Richard originally thought that Chris would be the same as the people from the Dihua Association. But now, it doesn't seem to be the same. An enhancer person, saying such things in such a righteous manner, Richard doesn't feel like he is acting. Then it should be Sedeso cheated on Chris. Chris doesn't seem to know that the Dihua Association makes a profit by controlling the outcome of the game. I didn't mean to tease them. I just don't want to play match fixing with them, Richard said. Fake match. Yeah, match fixing, don't you know? Dihua Association makes huge profits by controlling match fixing. This is impossible. Chris was stunned for a moment, but then he felt that Richard was talking nonsense. It's impossible for us in the Dihua Association to fight fake matches. We are all people who love fighting. What we are looking for is strength, and we are true martial artists. You're just humiliating us. But Johnson, who invited me to join your Big Cable Association at the time, said so to me himself. Richard said, I can guarantee that what I said is true. And as you should have seen, some members of this association were very poor when they first joined. But it's going to get lavish very quickly. And that extravagance is based on the reward of winning the game. And it is simply impossible to achieve. Chris subconsciously recalled. Such people do exist. However, Chris should trust Richard because of this and question Sedeso, who has trusted him for so long. This is not realistic. But maybe the master helped them. Richard said, I know you don't believe me, but it's not appropriate for you to target me before the investigation is clear. I'm here and I won't leave. This battle will end here. You go to investigate first. When you investigate clearly, if what I said is false, then I will play with you again. How about it? Chris hesitated. At this time, Richard had already jumped off the ring. Winner, Chris. Richard has already judged that this Chris is just a dummy and a stubborn one. It's pointless to teach such people a lesson. Against himself is Sedeso. So if you want to take revenge, it is naturally Sedeso. Therefore, Richard voluntarily conceded defeat. To beat Chris, you must use none. Then, Sedeso, who is watching this game, may see some clues. Richard returned to the room and looked up at the ceiling. Originally, when I reached the 190th floor, my practice in the Sky Arena was almost over. But since Sedeso is going to target me, I don't mind going to the 200th floor and having fun with you. Chris looked at Richard's back. After a long time, he looked back. Richard's words made Chris really doubt it. Chris didn't feel it before. But now that Richard reminded him, Chris recalled that, indeed, in the Big Cable Association, he had seen a lot of strange things before. He thought he could win, but lost. I thought I would lose, but I won. And there are no other factors. That is, the on-the-spot state is not good. In addition, There are indeed many people who came poor but quickly became rich. Master is definitely not such a person. Master is a true martial artist. Maybe someone down there did it. These people who follow the een and the een do such things behind the back of the master and also rely on the master's reputation. Humph. If it's true, I must teach them a lesson. Expel them from the Dihua Association. Chris finds some members of the Big Soul Society. Not close yet. Chris's footsteps subconsciously lightened. Sure enough, the news of these presidents is correct. Just by Chris. I made a lot of money. It's too hard to play. It's still cool to bet. That's right, it's hard to play the game, and the income is not high. If you place a bet, everything will come back. Chris's face sank. Chapter 20, the third use of the recorder. Seeking votes. Bang, bang, bang. There was a knock on the door. Richard opened the door. I saw Chris standing at the door. Without hesitation. Kneeling down in front of Richard. I'm sorry about today's incident. Nodding his head, he got up. I've investigated it clearly, and it's true that they're playing match fixing and betting. Chris clenched his fists. Everyone in the entire association knows it, including my master, Sadeso. Only I don't know. I'm leaving. Richard, you should leave too. Since my master has already set his sights on you. Then, if he fails this time, he will definitely think of other ways. If you stay here, you will be in danger sooner or later. Richard nodded. Thank you for the reminder, and good luck to you. Richard, aren't you leaving? I have my plan, and I'll take care of it myself. Chris nodded. Then you pay attention to safety. I go first. Watching the back of Chris leaving, all the way to the corner. Richard looked away and closed the door. Leave? Of course not. Just a Sadeso. Does Richard need to be afraid of a Sadeso? Richard never took Sadeso seriously. Go back to the room. But I do need a little more means. Richard recalled how he faced Chris in the ring today. It's not hard to beat Chris. After all, Richard is much stronger than Chris. However, Richard's ability will reveal a lot. Sudden, Richard had an idea. The thought of death is invisible and can change shape. Then, let the idea of death hide in the recorder so that others can't see the existence of the idea of death, and I can disguise the ability of the idea of death as the ability of the recorder. Let the clarinet use the choir. Use a reinforced tongue. Embodied whip axe. Richard's eyes lit up. Yes, it could be used like this. Richard thought for a moment. Immediately, the recorder appeared in Richard's hands. A phantom was shrunk in the recorder. Richard pointed the recorder out the window. Read the bomb. Next moment, a bullet is shot from the recorder. Absolutely okay. I can't see the slightest flaw. It is equivalent to this recorder, and it becomes a gun that can be embodied and can fire bullets. With this, I can pretend to be the manipulator or the nun of the transmuter. After, a phantom quickly popped out of the recorder inside. This is Calkin's ability. And then, another whip was manifested. And an axe. Everything is fine. Bomb, tongue, whip axe. Richard nodded in satisfaction. Get used to it. In the future, this is my clear ability. The second layer is to release these thoughts of death. Play more with less. The third floor is the crazy Sonata. Sudden, a bell rang. Richard turned on the phone. Hey, it's me, Chris. Richard, run. Before Chris could finish speaking, he was hung up. Richard's eyes flickered. Just now, Chris's tone was hurried and weak, as if he was seriously injured after a fierce battle. For Chris, Richard's impression is good. This man's justice is higher than that of normal people. Moreover, after knowing that he was wrong, he would take the initiative to come to Richard to admit his mistake and apologize. Also reminded Richard, is it Sadeso? I feel that Chris betrayed him, or I am worried that Chris will report them and expose them. So, want to kill Chris. Chris still wanted to remind me in this situation. Richard walked out the door. Go downstairs. Come out from the Sky Arena. Chris wants to leave, so there's a high probability of taking an airship. If he wants to go, this is the road. Richard hurried on his way. Sudden, a faint smell of blood wafted out. Richard quickly picked up his speed. This way, Richard rushed to the source of the bloody smell. A ditch appeared in Richard's sight. A corpse lay in a ditch. Eyes widened. It's Chris. In the eyes, it is full incredible. Richard's face darkened. Sedeso must have done it. Otherwise, Chris wouldn't have this expression. Tiger poison still doesn't eat seeds. Sedeso, your disciple, even if he knows what you have done and is willing to violate his own moral condemnation, he is not willing to report and expose you. And you killed him. People like you really damn. Richard hadn't had the idea of killing Sedeso before. Sedeso's previous targeting of Richard was a lesson. Then Richard's revenge is also a lesson. But now there is. Chris, I will avenge you. Sedeso, he is dead. I'll let him pay for your life. Richard's face turned cold. And at this time, 4 figures appeared. 2 entrances in the alley. 2 exits in the alley. Yes, this is Richard. Cameron took a serious look at Richard and looked at the middle-aged man next to him. Senior Lizard trouble you. Take him. The lizard nodded. Chapter 21 Beast Member. Lizard Richard frowned. Who are you? What do you want to do? Cameron stepped forward. Introduce yourself. I'm the world gangster, one of the 10 old men, the 3rd son of Singed Cameron. And the one next to him is one of the members of the Beast, Senior Lizard. Johnson, have you met? Cameron came to the Sky Arena and investigated it. Johnson didn't die at the hands of those in the Sky Arena. Then there is only one possibility left. Killing Johnson must have something to do with Richard. Johnson is dead. Don't say you don't know. We have investigated this matter clearly, and it must have something to do with you. Tell the person who killed Johnson, and I can consider giving you a treat. Richard guessed the identity of this person when he heard Cameron's second sentence. However, for Cameron, Richard does not care. Richard cared about the one next to Cameron. Lizard. The members of Beast. I remember, there is no such person at all. Except for the 4 members who died in Yuvajan. The remaining 6 do not match the image of this person. However, this person may have died before the Ukexan incident. New member replaced. Richard's expression became solemn. According to Richard's own assessment, the representative of the D level is the Beast, and Richard's judgment of himself is also D level. Then this means that the strength of the opponent and himself are at the same level. Compose a greater threat to yourself. What if I don't say it? If you don't say it, I will kill you directly. And at this time, Richard has already started. Richard thought for a moment. Immediately, the recorder appeared in Richard's hands. Aim at the other 2 people in the alley. Boom! A thought shot out. The other party didn't expect Richard to act directly, but he didn't react and was directly hit. For people, 1 down. Cameron's face changed. You can still read bullets? The intelligence is wrong. But you are dead. Senior Lizard is here. You don't have any chance. A middle-aged man named Lizard rushed towards Richard. A powerful thought enveloped the lizard. The amount of gas is not worse than mine. Richard stepped back quickly. Another person at the exit of the alley came towards Richard's back. With the 2 lizards, they attacked Richard. But just when this man was about to touch Richard, a phantom appeared in front of Richard. It's Corkin's idea of death. A tongue, suddenly sticking out, entangled the man. After, read the bomb. Richard used the recorder again, firing the nobility. Hit the eyebrows directly, and this. Of the 4 who had attacked, 2 had already fallen. However, this is the easiest of the 2 to resolve. The strength of these 2 people is not as good as Johnson's. And Burroughs, Corkin, almost the same. Burroughs and Corkin's thoughts of death will be stronger than before. Coupled with their ignorance of Richard's intelligence, they were so easily knocked down by Richard. But lizards are different. The death of the 2 companions did not make Cameron and the lizard nervous. Cameron is very respectful of the strength of the lizard. I think the lizards can definitely beat Richard easily. And the lizards themselves are also very proud. Those 2 people are just ordinary guards of Cameron, and the lizards don't look down on them at all. What is this guy's ability? The opponent's name is Lizard, and there is a high probability that the ability is related to the lizard. However, lizards have too many characteristics. Flexible tongue, venomous bite, change its color with the environment, and many more. Among the chimeric ants of the future, Richard remembers, is a chameleon, is a division leader. The fighting strength is not very strong, but has a special stealth ability. Even the chimeric ant guards couldn't feel it. This ability is used well, and it is almost invincible. Richard took a defensive posture. During this time, in the sky arena, Richard adopted this fighting mode, referred to as defensive counterattack. As long as the defense is down, then the possibility of winning is very high. Moreover, because of taking too many such tactics, Richard already has his own experience in defense. The lizard's attack was fierce and fierce, but Richard still took it firmly. On the other side, Corkin's thought of death rushed towards Cameron. Richard's idea is simple. We'll be able to first solve all. But Richard's move angered the lizard. In the case of fighting against me, you even let your yin beast deal with Cameron. How much do you despise me? I'm a member of the dignified yin beast. Lizard got angry. You are courting death. Next moment, a stronger aura erupted from the lizard. Richard saw that the lizard's body swelled at a speed visible to the naked eye. There are also scales growing on the body. The fingers of the limbs became claws. Even the face has become like a lizard. Is this a complete beast? The lizard attack is here again. Richard felt that the strength and defense of the lizards had increased a lot. However, correspondingly, the lizard's speed has slowed down a bit. But compared to the increased strength defense, it's insignificant. The overall strength is greatly improved. Chapter 22, the second form, seeking votes. Richard's expression became serious. This should be the strongest opponent I have ever encountered so far. However, it will be me who will win. Richard's own judgment is also D-level. And compared to the ability of the lizard to go straight, Richard's ability is even more bizarre and difficult to guard against. This is Richard's advantage. The ability of the lizard is simple and straightforward. After just using it once, Richard has fully understood it. And Richard's abilities, the lizards don't fully know. Corkin's thought of death came to Cameron. This Cameron is also a nun. However, the level is worrying. In the face of Corkin, he couldn't stop it at all. Corkin's reinforced tongue has firmly wrapped around Cameron's neck. Boom! Richard pointed the recorder in Cameron's direction. A bullet pierced Cameron's eyebrows. Cameron's eyes widened. Extremely unbelievable. I actually died? Cameron couldn't believe it. Himself will die. The helper I invited by myself is Een Beast, the famous Een Beast. The gangsters in the whole world are the most elite existences. The Een Beast that makes countless people tremble. And the other party is just someone who has just mastered none for a while. Why can't the lizard just take him down? It even gave Richard more energy to deal with himself. Is the name of the so-called Een Beast all fake? Why? Lizard was furious. When Richard faced him before, he also let Corkin's death thought to deal with Cameron, which has already made the lizard very dissatisfied. And now, Richard is fighting with him while killing him in front of him. Cameron died. This makes him where to put his face. The lizard felt humiliated. In addition, Cameron's death is also a trouble. Cameron is nothing. But Cameron's father, one of the 10 old men of the world's gangster, Singed. That's someone who can call a lot of resources. Once Singed knew, it was because he failed to protect Cameron and let Cameron die. Lizards are always in trouble. Little devil, how dare you kill Cameron? Today, you will surely die. Richard looked away. He wants to kill me. Can't I kill him? The lizard's attack became more and more severe. A punch hit the wall. Suddenly, a hole appeared. Richard gradually fell behind. In head-to-head combat, Richard is indeed no match for the lizards. This, Richard has to admit. However, this is when Richard barely uses his none. A trait line that does not use none. But just fighting with the other side is equivalent to taking advantage of one's own weaknesses and touching the other side's strengths. Being at a disadvantage is normal. When Richard uses his abilities, he can really see who is strong and who is weak. Go to hell. The lizard lunged at Richard fiercely, claws, teeth, and used them together, as if turned into a real beast. Richard was cornered, and at this time, Calkin is back. From the side of Cameron's body, came behind the lizard. A long tongue stretched out and rolled towards the lizard, abruptly causing the lizard to stop. Do you think this will stop me? Dream. A huge force erupted from the lizard. Calkin's tongue was directly broken. The lizard's claws still stabbed at Richard. But another figure stood in front of Richard. It's Johnson's idea of death. An axe, embodied by Johnson's year of death. Ding! Axe and lizard claws collide. The two retreated at the same time. Richard stepped out from behind Johnson. Calkin's tongue has recovered. The two rushed towards the lizard at the same time, entangling the lizard tightly. Calkin, Johnson's strength, are weaker than lizards. But with the power of the two, it is not so easy for the lizard to win. After all, this is the idea of death. Stronger than before they were alive. Go away. The lizard is roaring. I didn't expect you to have two mind beasts. You're none. What is it? Certainly not a pure transmuter. Is it a trait? I have to admit, your ability is very strange. However, your own strength is not enough. Thinking these two beasts can stop me? Impossible. Suddenly, the skin color on the lizard changed, from green to red. A stronger breath was released from the lizard's body. Brass. Next moment, Burrow's death thought appears. Boom! A thought bullet was shot at the lizard. Ding! The bullet landed on the lizard, but left a white mark on the lizard. The defense of the lizard was so terrifying at this moment. Burrow's bullets couldn't even break through the defense. I didn't expect this beast to be so strong. Did I misestimate their strength? Or is this lizard among the beasts originally the very powerful group? Richard took a guess and picked up the recorder immediately. After that, play. Crazy Sonata, a melodious sound came from the recorder. Chapter 23, need help? The lizard immediately felt a change in his state. Mood swings became greater. More excited. The blood in the whole body seems to be boiling with this music. Richard's playing must be stopped. Lizard got the news from Cameron. Richard's clarinet sound can drive people crazy. Loss of consciousness, or even suicide. Moreover, the lizard has already felt it, and it has indeed been affected. Go away. Corkin flew upside down. But Johnson also stopped in front of the lizard. At the same time, Burrow's bullet also landed on the lizard. Too difficult, even if the lizards have erupted. But there are 3 years of death under Richard's control, and the Sonata of Madness has affected the lizards. Lizards cannot use their full power. The more time passes, the worse the lizard's condition. The lizard already felt that he could not control his body. Do not. Rich anger, unwilling, filled the chest of the lizard. Not just for Richard, and against Cameron. Damn Cameron. If the information is not clear, let me come. Damn. A touch of remorse came to Lizard's mind. However, it's too late. The lizard's eyeballs turned completely red. Consciousness collapsed. The next moment, I saw the lizard slamming its head into Kiang on the side. One after another. Bang, bang, bang. Richard withdrew his thoughts of death and put down his recorder. A smear of blood flowed from the lizard's forehead. The lizard's hands turned into claws. Immediately pierced into his chest. A pull. A heart was taken out by the lizard. Boom! Burst suddenly. The lizard's body fell to the ground. It was not until death that the lizard's eyes regained a little clarity. Richard, the other members of the beast will avenge me. You will come down with me soon. A phantom appeared above the lizard's corpse. Thoughts of death. A burst of attraction erupted from the recorder, sucking the phantom into it. Only those who die because of the crazy Sonata will have the idea of death. Cameron and these 2 Cameron guards did not die in the Sonata of Madness. Therefore, there is no thought of death. Richard frowned as he looked at the 4 corpses on the ground. I don't cause trouble. Things come to the door. I hit the small one, and the big one comes. Shouldn't it be Xin Jed and the holy beast who will attack me next time? But Richard wasn't too worried, because Richard knows what the so-called world gangsters and beasts are like. Not a single phantom troop. After Richard's plan in the Sky Arena is completed, Richard's strength will be raised to C rank, which is the level of the average member of the brigade, which is almost the same now. In addition, Richard also got the idea of death of the lizard. Then, Richard's comprehensive strength is 1C level, 1D level, and 3 levels. Sudden, a pair of eyes appeared in Richard's sight. A young girl with purple hair. Looking at each other, both of them were a little stunned. Richard's eyes narrowed slightly. After that, Maggie saw the corpse on the ground and hesitated for a while. Do you need help? Maggie pointed to the corpse on the ground. I can help you deal with these corpses perfectly, so that no one can think of you, and you only need to pay me 2 million ringni. How about it? Perfect handling so that no one can contact me. Richard frowned. Yes, you can't do it. Before these people come, their people must know their purpose is to come to me. I can do it, Maki said lightly. Just need, I will bear the lives of the four of them. I killed people, so naturally it has nothing to do with you. If they want revenge, they can only find me. Why? Because I need money. To bear these four lives is nothing to me. But why should I trust you? You cannot pay first and then pay after the news spreads. Richard was silent for a moment, then nodded. Okay, then you can dispose of the corpse. Maggie came to the sewer entrance. A line of thought extends down. After that, Maggie snorted abruptly. Richard heard something. Okay. Maggie looked at Richard. Richard nodded. I will stay in the Sky Arena in the future. After the news comes out, I will pay you 2 million yuan, and you will come to me. It is good. A week later, the news came out. The world gangster, one of the 10 old men, the third son of Singed, and one of the members of the Een Beast, the Lizard, all died at the hands of one of the Phantom Troop members, Maggie. At the same time, Richard was also promoted to the 200th floor. Regarding the plan for the Sky Arena, Richard has already completed it. Richard has just entered the room. There was a knock on the door. It was Maggie at the door. Richard opened the door and moved out of the way. Come in. Do you want something to drink? Need not. Richard nodded and sat down opposite Maggie. Give me your card number. Chapter 24 Application for Battle, 200 floors, seeking evaluation tickets. Maggie reported her card number to Richard. Richard still didn't understand. I still can't figure it out. When you proposed this deal, I even suspected that it was more likely that you had other plans. I didn't expect that you would really bear these for lives. You Phantom Troop, don't you lack this money? Maggie glanced at Richard. Lack? Is there a shortage of 2 million rennies? You are in the Sky Arena, and it is not difficult to earn 2 million rennies. Yes, but for me, the more money, the better. Maki said, 2 million rennies are already quite a lot. But for me, carrying 4 lives is nothing. I have already carried a lot, and I don't care about the 4 more. For me, there is no loss, but I got 2 million rennies, which is a very cost-effective thing. Richard thought of a possibility. Is it from Meteor Street? Maggie's pupils shrank slightly. How do you know I'm from Meteor Street? It's a secret. Phantom Troop has been wanted for a long time, but only a few people know that Phantom Troop comes from Meteor Street. You curse in auction time. People in the world's gangsters didn't know the details of Phantom Troop from the beginning. When it was found out that Phantom Troop came from Meteor Street, the reward was canceled. I naturally have my sources of information. Richard said, I don't discriminate against you, Meteor Street. Maybe we may become friends in the future. After all, the enemy of the enemy is a friend. You took the 4 lives this time, but that doesn't mean they won't be able to find out. Maggie's eyes flickered, and she took out her phone. It's already paid. Happy cooperation. This is my contact information. Next time, if you need help, you can call this number at any time. As long as the price is right, I will take action. It's not too big of a problem. We can all handle it. After speaking, Maggie got up and walked out of Richard's room. Boom! The door is closed. Richard looked away. Originally, Richard's impression of Phantom Troop was not very good. In the plot, Phantom Troop is a criminal character, and he has no respect for life and kills countless people, even innocent people. The representative of this is the genocide of the Cave Skull Pagoda. Only Kurapika survived. So much so that the purpose of Kurapika's life has become only revenge. Everything can be sacrificed for revenge. In terms of his nun, he has set extremely strict restrictions and oaths. No matter what happens to the other members of the brigade, this Maggie doesn't look too bad. With Maggie's strength, she doesn't need to worry about money at all. There is only one reason to need money. It is to give this money to Meteor Street. Meteor Street is so poor. There are only 2 main sources of income. One is picking up trash. One is selling people. World gangsters often need some hardworking characters. These characters will be purchased from Meteor Street, much cheaper than outside, and basically not afraid of death. The Zoldyck family often also recruits talents from Meteor Street. Some housekeepers come from this. And Silva's wife. For his wife, Silva has no feelings at all and just chose a good enough genetically. in order to make his children more talented and have better potential. However, this is not something one person or a team can change. However, the world gangster will not allow the change of Meteor Street. Meteor Street has provided too many resources and conveniences to the world's gangsters. Maybe Phantom Troop stole the auction items from Ukexen's auction and hired Yermi to assassinate the 10 old men, just because they wanted to break the world gang's control of Meteor Street? Richard shook his head. That's not Richard's concern. My plan for the Sky Arena is almost complete. Only one. That's Sedeso's life. Chris, I'll take revenge for you. Richard was very impressed with Chris, and this made Richard's impression of Sedeso even worse. What's more, it was Richard that Sedeso had to deal with. Richard walked out of the room. Come to the front desk. Give me an application form for the competition. May I ask what date do you want to play? Tomorrow. If not, it will be postponed later. The lady at the front desk reminded me. Are you in such a hurry? You have just risen to the 200th floor. My suggestion is that you should first understand the situation of the 200th floor and adjust your state. Thanks for the reminder, but no need. Richard glanced back as he filled out the form. A figure hiding in the corner. It was Sedeso. Behind Sedeso, there are two figures. One in a wheelchair, Realvelt. One dressed like a spinning top is Jido. Sedeso, this person's first time. We let you, but don't kill him. We have to get some points from him. I'll pay attention. Sedeso's eyes darkened. Damn it, you finally got to the 200th floor. Last time, you were lucky. This time, I will do it myself. You have no chance of good luck. Chapter 25 Reminder of Hua, Sure Dolong, it's game time. Richard walked to the arena. Sudden, a young man stood in front of Richard. White long hair, wearing a white martial arts uniform and a yellow coat. This game, I suggest you abstain. Abstain, why? Because you can't be his opponent. The young man pointed to himself and said, I was like you back then. After I climbed to the 200th floor, I was very ambitious. But above and below the 200th floor are completely different worlds. The people here have a power that you don't know. That's something called mindfulness. I got this thing after a failure. You can't be their opponent before you get this thing. Also, your opponent today is disgusting. Richard frowned slightly. What's your name? Huasher Dolong. Richard nodded. Huasher Dolong, thank you for your reminder, but I will read what you said, so you don't have to worry. In addition, if you want to learn more about reading, you can come to me. Huasher Dolong was taken aback. He came back to his senses and wanted to ask questions, but Richard had disappeared. Richard said that, on the one hand, it is a pity that Huasher Dolong died. After all, this is the person Hisoka likes, and the talent is definitely not too bad. Who is Hisoka looking at? Gone Ilfin Krallo, which is not with a distinct personal characteristic. Outstanding talent. On the path of none, one can go a long way. Huasher Duru, because of developing the wrong ability, was disliked by Hisoka, so Hisoka killed him. If he takes the right path, Huasher Dolong won't be too bad. On the other hand, it was Huasher Dolong's reminder to Richard. This brings Richard to Chris, the one who, even if he was about to die, wanted to remind himself to leave. A man who was obviously so righteous became Sedeso's disciple. Even die because of it. What else do you think? Huasher Dolong muttered to himself. I want to watch this game. Huasher Dolong immediately used his privilege as a player, got a ticket, and came to the auditorium. At this time, Richard, Sedeso have already arrived in the ring. The middle-aged referee glanced at the two of them, and after confirming that there was no problem, he waved his hand suddenly. Start. Sedeso looked at Richard. Boy, do you know me? Richard nodded. I know. The president of the Dasuwa Association cheated a lot of money by arranging his subordinates to conduct fake matches. After these words fell, Sedeso's face suddenly changed. Because the referee could hear the conversation between the two. Even the audience sitting close can hear it. I do not know what you're talking about. Sedeso's face sank. Sedeso, have never done match fixing, boy. Don't you think that you are not my opponent, and you are slandering me here and using psychological tactics? Simply shameless. Even if you use psychological tactics, you can't say anything that insults a martial artist. Unacceptable. There was a trace of disdain in Richard's eyes. Excessive. I'm just telling the truth. And Chris's death. Aren't you doing too much? Richard said, Okay, I won't talk nonsense with you. I know what you want to do. It's just because of me, you lost a lot of money. So you have to teach me a lesson. Now here I am. Stop talking so much nonsense. Let's go to war. You want to teach me a lesson. And I, too, want Takriz to take revenge. Sedeso's eyes flickered. Okay, boy, have the guts. Then, I will fulfill you. I didn't intend to kill you at first. With your life, I can get a few more points, but since you said that just now, it's hard to keep you today. Today next year is your death day. The next moment, Sedeso's ki surged up. A mass of air condensed in Sedeso's left hand. That's what Sedeso is capable of. Conjurer ability. Turn ki into a hand. After that, use this invisible hand to deal a huge blow to the enemy. But this trick, totally pointless. But that's no fault of Sedeso. Sedeso lacks knowledge of none and doesn't even know that he is a conjurer capable. Not even condensing this technique. Sedeso's trick is very difficult to use when facing the ability to condense. It is indeed invisible to the naked eye, but condensate can be seen. Just like Maggie's thread, Hisoka's stretchy love. A recorder appeared in Richard's hand. A recorder? Can this thing be used for battle? Sedeso is disdainful. Don't you think that above 200 floors and below 200 is just the difference in whether you can use weapons? Too childish. Washer Dolong frowned. There is no place on Richard's body to hide that recorder. How did this recorder appear? Richard's none. Sedeso rushed towards Richard suddenly. And at this time, Richard pointed the recorder at Sedeso. Bomb. Chapter 26, The Invisible Bullet. Seeking evaluation ticket. Danger. Sedeso smelled danger. But, read the bomb, just a ball of air. Sedeso doesn't freeze, can't see. Sedeso dodged the point. The bullet hit Sedeso's shoulder. A bloody arrow splashed out. The host was stunned. What happened just now? Sedeso player was injured suddenly. What did player Richard do? Is that the recorder? Wait, I see. The host's eyes lit up. This Richard player has also mastered his special abilities. Sedeso's ability is the invisible left hand. And this Richard's ability is an invisible bullet. Richard's mouth twitched. God is such an invisible bullet. This is just an ordinary reading bullet, not worthy of such a tall name. However, the host's words made Sedeso calm down. I didn't expect you to be like us. Sedeso gave Richard a deep look. You are not a pure newcomer. You have mastered this ability. Who taught you this? The so-called rookie killer is someone who only dares to stare at the rookie. For Hisoka, Hwasher Dolong, they never dared to provoke them. And now, see Richard's special abilities. Sedeso was stunned in an instant. Realvelt and Jido outside were thankful and looked at each other. Fortunately, it's Sedeso. This kid is not an ordinary person. Richard noticed the look in Sedeso's eyes and suddenly became a little less interested. Today's game, Richard is for Chris. Avenge Chris. Richard is ready to play a good fight and let Chris out. Result: it's only been such a round, and Sedeso is cowardly. But today, Sedeso must die. With Sedeso's character, he will suffer again, and he will definitely admit defeat. Then, I will not give him this chance to admit defeat. Richard raised his recorder. Sedeso, go to hell and make amends with Chris. Use Core Gene, strengthen the tongue. A dark shadow swept toward Sedeso. In an instant, he came to Sedeso. Call out. With one click, it wrapped around Sedeso's neck. Sedeso couldn't breathe right away. However, basic sanity Sedeso still maintained. Controlling himself, the arm formed by the condensed gigantic thoughts grabbed towards Core Gene's strengthened tongue. But nothing worked. Sedeso's strength is not as good as Core Gene's death thought. There is absolutely no way to break free. I think Richard narrowed his eyes. Want to admit defeat? No way. Chris can't die in vain. Today you must die. A thought bomb flew out of the recorder. Use Burrows, read the bullet. A touch of bright red appeared between Sedeso's eyebrows. Even with the protection of Ki, Sedeso still couldn't stop Richard's thoughts. Fragmented skull. The nudge went directly into Sedeso's mind. Blast the brains up. Sedeso's eyes widened, with an expression of disbelief. Sedeso never imagined that he would die here. A deep sense of unwillingness filled Sedeso's heart. My goal has not yet been achieved. Your life has only just begun. Status, money, all will come soon. Why? Why are you so unfortunate? Boom! Sedeso's figure fell heavily. Richard took the recorder back. The winner, Richard. Richard looked out the window, the direction Chris died that day. Chris, rest in peace. Sedeso, I've killed, avenged you. Richard stepped off the ring. In the sky arena, death is a normal thing. Even killing Sedeso, Richard would not have any trouble. A figure looked at the battle situation on the screen and withdrew his gaze. Hisoka is not interested in Richard. The nun used by Richard is, in Hisoka's opinion, too crude. Not interested. The manipulator's ability actually uses the bullet as the main attack method. Hisoka shook his head, feeling that this was a complete waste of talent. However, this is exactly the effect Richard needs. Disguised as a manipulator or a transmuter. But these are just external manifestations. Richard's real department is the trade department, an ability, not these, but crazy Sonata. That's Richard's real reliance. Hwasher Dolong's eyes flickered. The recorder just disappeared suddenly again. For sure, this is Richard's nun. No one cares about Sedeso's death. Even Jido and Real Velt dare not go to Richard to avenge Sedeso, and it is too late to avoid Richard. As for the members of the Dihua Association, even their presidents are not opponents. How could they be? Dihua Association disbanded into the other two agreements, the Jido Association and the Real Velt Association. Richard saw Hwasher Dolong waiting at the door of his room. Richard, Hwasher Dolong hesitated. Go ahead and talk about it. Richard took Hwasher Dolong into the room, took a sip of water, and then sat down on the sofa. Please sit down. Hwasher Dolong nodded and sat down opposite. Chapter 27, The Picture Scroll of Greed. You want more information on none, don't you? Yes. About the mind, there are a total of 4 basics, namely entanglement. That is, wrapping ki around the body to ensure that these ki will not be lost casually, wasting one's life energy. Second, refining, extracting more ki from one's own body. Third, absolutely, shut down aura nodes and disguise yourself as a normal person. The fourth one is hair. What's your hair? Hwasher Dolong hesitated for a moment. It's the fist of the tiger bite. What about other than that? No, but I'm considering a new ability. Richard knew that at this time, Hwasher Dolong should be thinking about the ability to practice avatars. This is the disadvantage of the wild road. I don't even know which way to go. Let's not consider the new ability. Do you know your department? Farewell. Sure enough, I don't know. No wonder I practice in the wrong direction. Let's test it first. Richard took a glass of water, handed it to Hwasher Dolong, and said, cover your hands on both sides of the cup and use the lien. Hwasher Dolong nodded. A burst of strong energy was released from Hwasher Dolong's hand. The next moment, I saw that the water in the cup increased at a speed visible to the flesh and overflowed from the cup. So amazing. It's time to stop. Richard said, it means that your class is Enhancer. What is an Enhancer? Hwasher Doru asked. Enhancer literally means to strengthen something. It could be to strengthen one's own body. It can be to strengthen a weapon and to strengthen recovery and healing capabilities. The third one, you definitely won't choose. Then, what you need to consider is the first two. If you don't have a favorite weapon, then strengthening your body is the best choice. Richard paused. Tiger Bite Fist, you can continue to use it. The impact is not very big, but don't develop the rest of the messy abilities. Just keep strengthening your body. The representatives of Enhancer are Yuvajin and Gon. Both of them are taking the route of strengthening their bodies. One is the whole body. As for Gon, the first consideration is fists. That's all I have to say. This is my suggestion for your future route. It's up to you whether you listen or not. Richard didn't say more. The two are just one-on-one. Richard just felt that Hwasher Dolong was a pity, and read the reminder before Hwasher Dolong. I see, Richard, thank you. You're welcome. Richard waved his hand. You don't have to follow the line I say, it's okay, but if you do it the way I say, then I need you to promise one thing. What? In the future, do me a favor when you can. Huasher Dolong just hesitated for a moment and then agreed immediately, as long as it doesn't violate the principles. Can. Seeing Huasher Dolong leave, Richard retracted his gaze. Look out the window. It's time to get out of here. Come to Sky Arena. My purpose has been achieved, and my overall strength has also been upgraded from D level to C level. The next step is to take the Hunter exam. Get the advanced skills of none. Richard looked down at the recorder. As a matter of fact, the abilities of Corkin, Bross, Johnson, these three people are not enough for me now. It's not that the type of ability is not good, but the intensity of reading is not enough. I'm a trait type, and I can only have 40% of the transformation efficiency of Transmuter, but if I use the bullet, it will be stronger than Bro's bullet. Crazy Sonata is really strong, but the stronger the nun, the more limited it is. It's the nun rule. It takes enough time for the Mad Sonata to work. It's time for me to develop my second nun. Into the night. Richard closed his eyes. A deep sea. Faint fluorescence flickered on the seabed. A huge creature appeared in front of Richard. The tentacles sway with the water. A murmur surrounded the surroundings. No creature dared to approach. This time, Richard calmed down a lot. Seriously observed the creature in front of him. Sudden, the giant creature opened its eyes. A faint light overflowed from the opponent's eyes. A blister slowly floated to Richard. Boom! Suddenly exploded. Richard felt that something had entered his body. A different kind of thing. It was very similar to when he first awakened nun. The next day, Richard opened his eyes. Second nun done. Richard thought for a moment. A picture scroll appeared in Richard's hands. The more thoughts you use, the longer the scroll will be. You can defend, you can attack. And the content painted on it also has the ability to stimulate biological desires, especially greed. It can make the creatures inside have hallucinations. Named Picture Scroll of Greed. Chapter 28, Leaving the Sky Arena. Richard thought about it, and immediately the picture was unfolded. As Richard used the more and more syllables, the length of this picture scroll is getting longer and longer. One circle, another circle. The whole room was filled. Picture of Greed. Richard imagined the use of this ability. The first one is to use the picture scroll to entangle and bind the enemy. The second is to surround yourself and block the enemy's attack. The third is to create a picture scroll maze. These three methods of use, no matter which one they are, can be used in conjunction with a Mad Sonata, which is extremely complementary to my current strength. My overall strength has improved a lot. Moreover, this picture scroll, like a recorder, can absorb the thought of death. Richard embodied the recorder. Two groups of thoughts of death floated from the recorder. It's Johnson and the lizard. The thoughts of death of these two people have no special effect in the recorder. Can't be like Burroughs and Koken. The perfect ability to disguise as a recorder. The abilities of Johnson and lizard must come out of the recorder in order to be perfectly exerted. But when Johnson and lizard entered the picture of greed, the situation was different. The thoughts of death of Johnson and lizard can enter the scroll at any time, exit from the scroll, and travel through the scroll. This means, as long as Richard turns the scroll into a labyrinth form, then the death thoughts of Johnson and lizard can attack the enemy in the labyrinth. With the help of the picture scroll, his own strength will be stronger. The current me, the amount of ki, may be a little worse than the average C-level nun. However, in terms of overall strength among the C-levels, it can be ranked in the forefront. Because most nin people will be restrained by my ability. These two abilities, for others, are very strange and difficult to guard against. When Richard thought about it, the scroll and the recorder disappeared. These two abilities of mine are related to desire. The Sonata of Madness is madness. The picture of greed is greed. According to the rules of none, the stronger the nun, the greater the restriction, while the Sonata of Madness and the picture scroll of greed, the restriction conditions are all time, and it takes time to activate. However, compared to the strength of these two abilities, this restriction is still a little small. Richard thought of a possibility. My ability comes from that behemoth in the deep sea. Maybe it's a part of the restriction that was endured by this creature. Richard didn't think much of it. The creature, what secrets it was hiding, These were things Richard wanted to know. However, investigation is required, and mere guesswork is meaningless. Take the hunter exam first, learn Nun's high-level skills, and then collect information about the Dark Sonata. In the Ukexan incident, there's a person who knows. Kurika's teammate, Melody. A man who was ruined by the Dark Sonatas, or accomplished. If you let the Melody choose, you will definitely regret listening to the Dark Sonata. But the power of the Melody, to a large extent, comes from the Dark Sonata. There is no doubt about that. Richard looked out the window. It's time to leave. Richard packed his luggage. There are not many things, just 2 sets of clothes, some food, and money. When he came to the Sky Arena, Richard brought 20 million yuan, and now it has become a little more, because Richard has won a lot of games. The higher the floor, the higher the bonus. Except for the 200th floor and above. Above 200 floors, no bonuses are set. In name, it is purely a fight for honor. Enter the elevator. Such a coincidence. Richard smiled. I didn't use the elevator very often, but recently I met Maggie in the elevator. I have to say, it was quite a coincidence. Are you leaving? Maggie saw the luggage Richard was carrying. Bon voyage. Thanks. 2 figures, standing on the 200th floor, looking down, seeing Richard's back leaving, he breathed a sigh of relief. It's Jido and Realvelt. Fortunately, Richard didn't know about our relationship with Sedeso and our original plan. Yes, I thought it was a newcomer, but I didn't expect it to be so strong. Not far away, separated by a few rooms. Huasher Dolong also looked down. Richard, I believe you. I hope what you said is true. After that, Huasher Dolong withdrew his sight. Hisoka, when I finish my practice, next time, I will challenge you again. At that time, it wouldn't necessarily be me who lost. Huasher Doru was very unwilling to lose to Hisoka last time. Richard didn't leave the city right away. Instead, he entered a pub first. Hunter exam passes are not only available from Whale Island. They can be obtained from many places. Sky Arena is not close to Whale Island. With Richard's strength, there is no need to make this trip. Many eyes turned to Richard, but just for a moment, it moved away. Richard came to the bar. Sit down. Give me a glass of ale. Okay, sir. Richard took a sip. Then look at the waiter. I need information on this year's Hunter exam. Chapter 29, they are so deceitful. To what extent? The route to the first examination room. 200,000 rennies. Richard took out the cash directly. Go to the back. This is the place to drink. Richard nodded. Walk in from a side passage. It's a secret room. It's 200,000 rennies. Richard handed the money over and said, I need the route for the first exam room of this year's Hunter exam. A head sticks out from under the table. Is a middle-aged man. Fat man. Just the route of the first exam room. That's right. More. Richard doesn't need it. Because more information is useless. Richard didn't think that with his own strength, he couldn't pass the Hunter exam. After all, even Gon, Kurapika, Liurio, and Bakuer have passed. Richard was much stronger than when they passed the exam. Right here, the middle-aged fat man handed over a map. On the map, it's at the red dot sign. Richard glanced at it, earning it in his arms. Guaranteed to be accurate? Not guaranteed. The middle-aged fat man glanced at Richard and said, Your Excellency is taking the Hunter exam for the first time. The location of the Hunter exam will change every year. We got the news from the inside, and there's probably a probability of more than 80%. Richard frowned. The rules of the Hunter exam. Richard knows some. The location of the exam is determined before the exam. Because of the location, not just anywhere you can test. Be prepared in advance. If this middle-aged fat man was really a staff member who assisted the Hunter Association in screening, then he wouldn't be unaware of the real location of the examination room. Wouldn't say something like 80% probability. Most likely, a liar. Really, our news is already very accurate. If you go to other places, there is no such probability at all. Richard nodded. I see. Immediately, Richard got up and left. A man came out next to him, looked at the middle-aged fat man, and showed a smile. Did you fool another one? That's not. The middle-aged fat man was a little proud and said, These people are really deceiving. Every year is a good opportunity to make money. I don't know the information about the Hunter exam. I don't even know what Hunter is. But it doesn't matter. I've deduced some from their population who want to take the test. This hunter is probably a profession. You have to take an exam before you can get a license. And the location of the exam is different every year. It's hard for ordinary people to get. I just need to make up a random location. Even if it's wrong, it doesn't matter. Anyway, I have already told them in advance that the location I gave cannot be guaranteed to be completely correct. They have no reason to blame me. But I've been doing it for so many years, and no one has come to trouble me. The middle-aged fat man paused. This money deserves to be earned by me. Suddenly, the middle-aged fat man found that the expression of the man opposite was frozen. What's wrong? The middle-aged fat man felt that something was wrong and turned around quickly. Then I saw Richard. Richard didn't leave at all. When the middle-aged fat man said the 80% probability, Richard felt that the middle-aged fat man had a very high probability and was lying. I was joking just now. The middle-aged fat man forced a smile. Richard looked at the middle-aged fat man and said nothing. The map I gave you is real. The middle-aged fat man rolled his eyes and said, "My news is indeed true. As long as you go, but the test location changes, you come back and I will refund you. Go back now." Now? Impossible. The middle-aged fat man shook his head. "You've already got the map, and you want me to refund the money now? That's impossible." The middle-aged fat man's face sank. "I didn't take advantage of it like this. I promised to change the location and give you a refund, which is sincere enough. This is my place." Richard smiled. Is this the confidence of the middle-aged fat man? However, he had no idea who he was provoking. Richard raised his hand. "What are you going to do?" But before the middle-aged fat man finished speaking, Richard had already mentioned it, stuck in throat and pressed against the wall. "I ask you, you answer, lie, and I'll kill you." Another person bypassed Richard's back, lifted the stool, and smashed at Richard. But he was kicked by Richard. It just flew out. He hit the wall and went straight into a coma. I said, the middle-aged fat man was scared to death. Too fast, almost unimaginable. The middle-aged fat man didn't even have time to take down the gun in the drawer. At this time, the middle-aged fat man knew that he had kicked the iron plate. Richard's strength is simply not something he can fight against. How many people have you deceived so far? On A. 1? I heard it clearly just now. You do this, but you've been doing it for several years. 6, just 6. Still telling the truth. Richard increased the strength in his hands. 16, really, I really didn't lie this time, my lord. The middle-aged fat man's voice was already a little crying. 1, 200,000. Pay me 3.2 million juani. I can spare your life, otherwise. 3.2 million? That's too much. I pay. Chapter 30 Pong C. Seeking a ticket. Richard was not in a good mood, even though he took back 3.2 million rennies from the middle-aged fat man. But taking money is more of just wanting to breathe a sigh of relief. What Richard really cares about is not money. This money is not much to Richard. What Richard wanted was the hunter exam, the correct location for the exam. Getting the information about the hunter exam from the tavern is indeed something I took for granted. In this world, hunter's information is very closed to ordinary people. Sudden, a young man walked up to Richard. "You want information about the hunter exam room?" Richard turned his head and looked at each other. A youth, a martial artist's attire. Richard was a little impressed. One of the people in the tavern before may have overheard the conversation between himself and the bartender. "You know, that's right." The youth nodded and said, "I will participate in the Hunter Association this time." "Well, I will give you a test. As long as you pass, I will share my information with you. As a condition, I hope that we can cooperate during the test." "What test?" "A test of ability." The youth said, "If you can't even pass my test, then it's pointless for you to take the hunter test. How do you prove that your information is true?" Richard looked at the young man and said, "I can't play with you for nothing." The young man frowned. "Since you know about the hunter exam, then let me tell you about the role of the hunter license. A hunter license can get a mortgage loan of up to 100 million yen. This Richard remembers. Gon and Killua wanted to do this when they went to Ukexen. "What test are you going to do?" "Have a fight with me." "Sai, go outside, just find an open space." Richard nodded. This person, Richard is not impressed. Then it won't be as strong. And Richard didn't see none's breath in this person. In every sense, this man would not be Richard's opponent. The two entered a forest. Just here, the young man stopped. Let's start. You attack first. Row. Next moment, Richard took a stride and came to the front of the youth. Boom! One punch. Richard deliberately controlled his strength and speed without revealing his full strength. But even so, the young man still shrank his pupils, showing a surprised expression. Boom! The young man blocked his hands in front of him. The figure involuntarily retreated. So fast, so strong. The young man's eyes lit up. You passed, I approve you, the youth said excitedly. As long as the two of us cooperate, the chances of us passing the hunter exam this time will become very high. Last time, I was defeated by a team. How many levels have you passed? Second pass. Richard nodded and said nothing. According to the normal process, there are at least 6 levels in the hunter exam. This person is only in the second pass, and he is still far from passing the exam. The hunter exam is still a month away. How about our special training this month? Anyone else? 2 more. Richard hesitated, then nodded in agreement. Richard doesn't like the level of these people. But in the first place, the hunter exam information is in the hands of these people. Second, Richard has nothing else to do. Come with me. As the young man walked, he said, I don't know what your name is. My name is Julia. Richard. Not long after, a small courtyard appeared in front of the two of them. This is the yard that my team rented. The 3 of us usually live here. If you don't mind, you can live here like us. It's not far from the training ground. There are all kinds of training equipment, which is very convenient. Richard nodded. Gloria pushed open the door. 2 figures appeared. A tall, muscular man. The other is a woman. He was small and wore a strange hat. Khaki, very round, very large. Richard remembered a name. Pens. Immediately afterwards, Goliath introduced. This is Sancho. This is Pensy. Richard frowned slightly. It really is. I guessed right. This girl named Peng Si appeared in the hunter exam. Her main ability is to control bees to obtain information. She's a good intelligence officer. It's a pity that Hunter joined Bakuwer's team after the exam. While investigating NGL, I came across chimeric ants. Was eaten directly, and it wasn't eaten by the queen. The one who ate Peng Si was just a miscellaneous soldier. Therefore, Peng Si didn't even have the chance to be reincarnated. This is Richard. He's very good, and I've invited Richard to join our team, Goliath said. This hunter exam, I believe, with the strength of the 4 of us and our sincere cooperation, we will definitely be able to pass it smoothly. Sancho held out his hand to Richard. Richard, welcome. Pleasant to work with. Richard found that this team, like Goliath, Sancho, and Pence, didn't know each other for a long time. It seems that not long ago, the team was just formed. Chapter 31, go to the first examination room. Pence gave Richard a look. Intuitively, I feel that Richard seems to be different. The next day, to the training ground. Let's determine the division of labor first, said Goliath. First of all, you, Peng Si, your ability is to control bees. So during the exam, you'll collect the intelligence content. This task is very important. The second, it's me. Gregory pointed to himself. I'm the commander of the team. In addition, I am also responsible for protecting Pensy. Richard, Sancho, you two are responsible for the attack. Do you all agree with such an allocation? Richard, Sancho, Pence nodded at the same time. This distribution is not a problem, but it's hard to say if anyone has other thoughts. Richard has observed it. Gloria's level is not much better than ordinary people. Judging by the Sky Arena, it would not exceed 100 floors. Richard can easily kill Goliath without reciting. And Sancho, on the surface, it looks very strong. But Sancho's muscles are fake. Not really through my own exercise, but seems to be stimulated by some kind of drug. It just looks intimidating. The actual combat power is not as good as Goliath. Richard glanced calmly at Pence's side. Pence also seemed to sense the grief of Goliath and Sancho. Noticing Richard's gaze, Pence looked over. The eyes of the two met, and they both understood the meaning of each other's eyes. That is, if Goliath and Sancho really can't support the wall with mud, then let go of them both. A new team is formed by Richard and Pence. Gloria was in high spirits. Richard is doing his own training. About the practice of mindfulness. There are 2 main sources of thought. One is the energy of the body, To put it simply, physical energy. The other is mental energy, for example. Well, physical training, Richard does every day. Regular training, a good diet, and physical fitness will naturally go up. But in terms of spirituality, different people have different ways of improving. Richard remembers, the president of the Hunter Association, Netero, is standing on the snow alone, punching constantly. Day after day, year after year. After that, it suddenly became clear, realize something that belongs to you. Since then, he has become the strongest human being in the world. None of them. Unfortunately, when facing chimeric ants, Netero has become weak due to time, and his real strength may only be 1/5 of the peak period. But even so, the Ant King can still be forced to that extent. This is enough to prove the tyranny of Netero. Richard fell silent. A person sitting cross-legged on the ground. Involuntarily, some images appeared in Richard's mind. Deep sea, endless, ocean currents surge. A burst of inaudible murmurs seemed to come from the void. Pence looked towards Richard. Richard, in this state, gave Peng Si a very subtle feeling. Richard opened his eyes. It does seem to work. The power of the mind is the power of the mind. Will, thinking, courage, responsibility. Wait, these are spiritual powers. Richard felt that the amount of his ki had increased, and the effects seemed to be better than simple physical training. At this rate, a month later, when the Hunter exam begins, my ki level can reach the mid to high level of C rank, equivalent to Flake Lev, Nobunaga, Finks among Phantom Troop. However, I will be stronger than them. Because of my ability, the possibility is higher than their ability. Soon, a month has passed. Gloria is confident. Guys, it's time for the Hunter exam. Now, let's go to the first test site. Come on, we must pass this exam. I believe we will pass. Richard had no objection to Gloria. The captain's responsibility, Gloria took on it very well. But the problem is that Gurley is weak. Because his own strength is too weak. Even if Richard wants to help Gloria, he can't help. Hunter exam, there is a single project. Goliath was doomed to fail. Goliath took out 4 airship tickets. Not long after, the 4 came to the airship. Go to the city where the first Hunter exam site is located. Richard closed his eyes. Peng Si was by the window. Adjacent to Richard, Goliath and Sancho sat on the other side. Richard, what's your plan? Richard glanced over at Goliath. If you can, take it as much as possible. If it really doesn't work, then we'll give up the 2 of them. I must pass the Hunter exam this time, and I don't want to do it again. Pensy nodded. That's what I think too. Close your eyes and rest for a while. Before entering the first test room, there may be some tests. The airship fell silent. Sudden, boom, a shot rang out. Suddenly everyone was awakened. I saw several people with their heads covered standing in the aisle with guns in their hands. Hand over all your valuables. Chapter 32, the test has begun. Richard, are we going to do it? Do not. Richard shook his head and said, Hunter's test has already begun. Goliath's news is only about the city we are going to. There is no more specific news. Originally, our plan was to inquire about the news after arriving in that city. But the operation of the Hunter Association is a little earlier than we expected. This is one of the channels for releasing news. These robbers are pretending, not real robbers. So they can only be one of the testers of the Hunter exam, and we have to make the right response to get the exact information from them. Exam room information. Richard looked at Goliath and Sancho across the aisle, getting ready to remind. But this time it was too late. Sancho pounced on one of the robbers. Boom! But not the opponent of the robber. Directly hit the chin with a punch from the opponent. He fell to the ground, unconscious. A robber brought a rope and tied Sancho up. Humph! How dare you play tricks? Court death. After speaking, the robber dragged Sancho out. After that, everyone heard a gunshot. Richard lowered his voice. Sancho is not dead. Not only because Richard judged the robbers to be fake, but Richard also sensed Sancho's breath of life. Gloria was nervous. Hunter's exam has not yet started, and as a result, one of his teammates is missing first. Moreover, the threat of robbers is still there. How to do? Gregory was a little flustered. Most of the confidence I had before had disappeared at once. Glaya, be quiet. Richard, be quiet. Listen to me, and don't do anything superfluous. Gloria nodded. Now Glaya has no better choice but to trust Richard. Richard looked away. Peng Si, what are you going to do? Pensy hesitated. This test should be the performance of a qualified hunter when we face similar situations. First of all, doing nothing is absolutely impossible. But to fight against the robbers, you must ensure certain conditions. You cannot fail to subdue the robbers, but instead let the robbers hurt people, whether it is yourself or ordinary passengers. Because then it's better to do nothing. Under the condition of ensuring the lives of ordinary passengers, the robbers will be subdued. Our strategy and strength must reach this level to meet the requirements for the first examination room of the hunter exam. Richard nodded. Good. There are 3 robbers now. In addition to these 2 in the aisle, there's another one who is guarding the outside. It's not easy to subdue 3 robbers at the same time. Pensy's eyes moved. I can use my bees, harass them, and if they get distracted, we can do it. Fine, just do it. With Richard's strength, there's no need to be so troublesome at all. As long as Richard makes a move, he can instantly eliminate all 3 of them. But now is not the time to reveal his strength. Also, Richard wanted test pens. Peng Si's ability is a very good intelligence officer. Richard has plans to form his own team. Pensy is an option. In this hunter exam, Richard is going to give Pensy a test. If Pensy meets Richard's requirements, then Richard will recruit Pensy into his team. Professor Pence none. Several bees flew out of Penn's hat. The vibration of the wings sounded. Pence controlled the bees and flew over to several robbers. Surrounded by the robber's head, the robbers got nervous. Humans are such strange things. Obviously, the strength of the robbers is far stronger than that of honey, but they are still afraid of honey. Go away. One of the robbers couldn't help waving, trying to drive the bees away. But at this moment, Richard moved suddenly. Peng Si, do it. The 2 shot at the same time, one after the other. Originally, the plan of the 2 was that Richard would solve 2 and Pence would solve 1. But at this moment, another person suddenly jumped out. A small one, wearing a floppy hat, short orange hair, is a teenager. There is also a quiver behind him. Richard's pupils shrank slightly. A name entered Richard's mind. Explosive Library. Maybe Bakuer and Peng Si met on the airship this time. And there is no Glaya, probably because Glaya has been eliminated in this robbery test. 3 shot. In an instant, all 3 robbers fell. Stop. A uniformed person hurried out from inside. Thank you 3 for solving the robbers. Leave the rest to us. Several people walked out of it and took the 3 robbers away. After that, another person came in. It was the 3 of you who solved the robbers just now. Our captain wants to meet you and thank you personally. Please come with me this way. Goliath looked at Richard. Richard gave Gliobe a reassuring gesture. A middle-aged man looked at Richard and the 3. The 3 previous robbers were standing next to the middle-aged man, a calm expression on his face. The middle-aged man smiled. This is a test, and congratulations to all 3 of you. You all passed the test. Chapter 33, A Narrow Passage. Next, I will tell you about the hunter exam, the first exam room. Conspicuous place, hidden place. Just a word. That's right, that's it. The middle-aged waved his hand, signaling to see off the guest. The airship is about to land. You go back first. The 3 returned to their respective seats. Bakuer lowered his head in thought. Pence looked at Richard. Unsurprisingly, now Pence has given priority to Richard's opinion. Subconsciously, Pence has accepted that Richard is more powerful than her. Richard, what do you mean by that? We'll talk later. Soon, the airship landed. Gloria couldn't wait to come over. Richard, Pence, what happened just now? Just now is the test of the hunter exam. Richard said, Pence and I passed the test, and Sancho was disqualified. That, Julia said nervously. What about me? You're not disqualified. I can share the information with you. Great. Gloria's face brightened. Get out of here first. Bakuer saw Richard and the 3 leaving, and wanted to catch up, but after hesitating, he gave up. Where is the conspicuous place? The hidden place. Gloria hesitated. The eye-catching place should refer to the landmark building of the city, because only that one is the most eye-catching. And the hidden place may refer to a hidden point of this landmark building. Gloria analyzed it carefully. Before on the airship, Goliath didn't show much. Now Goliath wants to show his value and wants Richard and Pensy to see his value. Then let's go there first. A huge building appeared in front of the three of them. It's a hotel. The height reached nearly 100 stories, the highest in this city. Not as good as the Sky Arena, but just as spectacular. The eye-catching place should refer to this place. Goliath looked at Richard. Are we going in? Go in. This is not just a hotel. There are many facilities inside. Come and see. Goliath stood in front of a sign. This hotel has a facility called the Labyrinth. If it's secret, the labyrinth must be counted. Maybe we're going through this maze? Pence subconsciously looked at Richard. Richard nodded. Go and see. This information is just one sentence. Richard can analyze the big. Probably that is what Goliath said. And Richard remembers one thing. That is, after Gon passed the captain's assessment, the captain almost told Gon the address directly. This means that the captain of the airship, the sentence said, will not have too many layers of meaning, and there is a high probability that it means literally. The Comer stops. A young man stands at the entrance. There are two entrances to this maze. Choose A, you can challenge 3 times. Choose B, you can only challenge once. Gloria hesitated. Richard glanced at the young man and raised his brows. If the entrance is correct, you will be able to pass it once. If the entrance is incorrect, it will be meaningless to repeat it multiple times. That's why I choose entrance B. Pence caught up with Richard. Gloria hesitated. This gentleman, Gloria, eventually followed. Richard, why did you choose B? Don't we have more chances to choose A? Richard shook his head. This is a labyrinth. There is no rule that you can't go back. So what's the difference between once and multiple times? This is just a trap. Choosing A is definitely a dead end. Richard walked forward, but soon the three found out. This is not a maze at all. It's just a straight path. Dark, small, narrow. Only the footsteps of the three of them echoed. Step by step. Finally, the end has come. Is a door. Arrive, Richard said. It is now certain that if you choose A, you will enter the real maze, and choosing B is the correct path to the first examination room of the Hunter exam. The three pushed open the door and entered. Inside is a room. There is a table in the middle. Several chairs are scattered around. Richard's
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.